The DOJ has launched a criminal investigation into E. Jean Carroll for committing perjury. Apparently, she was speaking in a deposition, claimed that she was not receiving outside funding, but CNN says later it was revealed she was actually getting paid by a big Democrat donor to go after Trump with some ridiculous 30-year-old accusation of, let's just call it, impropriety. Now, I'd say, after following that whole case, none of it makes sense. The accusation against Trump makes literally no sense. So we'll get into all the story and all this stuff. But at the same time, Trump says that she was lying to try and promote a book. And I think that probably is what really happened here, but we'll talk about that. Then, of course, the big news, Donald Trump is unstoppable. Everybody he's endorsed has won. So while we're seeing in the social media landscape this seeming divide, people who are moderate, libertarian, or otherwise breaking from the Republican Party or from Trump, Trump still controls a commanding amount of political force. When you look at the primary elections we've seen up to this point, as well as the polling, it's actually terrifying. The implications of what this means. Donald Trump is like the only charismatic politician we have. Don't get me wrong, a lot of people don't like the guy. But can you name anybody who is as commanding as Trump is politically? Democrats don't got it. Republicans maybe have a few names, maybe. But I wonder what it'll look like after Trump leaves in 2 years. There is, of course, a big conversation around this having to do with certain resignations and plans. Thomas Massie, of course, running for re-election in 2028. I've heard rumors. We'll talk about all that. Before we get into all of that, of course, we've got a great sponsor for you. It is Pocket Hose. Yo, check this out, my friends. I'm excited to tell you about the world's #1 expanding garden hose and the brand new product, the Pocket Hose Ballistic. Pocket Hose is the #1 expandable hose in the world. Super lightweight, easy to manage, easy to store. Turn the water on and it grows. Turn the water off and it shrinks back to pocket size. The Pocket Hose Ballistic is reinforced with a liquid crystal polymer used in bulletproof vests, making the anti-burst sleeve practically bulletproof. And that liquid crystal polymer fiber is actually 5 times stronger than steel. It comes with the pocket pivot, which gives you total freedom of movement at the spigot. With 360-degree rotation, you move, it follows, and the water flows. Enhanced with an upgraded UV coating, so the hose looks new year after year. Re-engineered thicker washers that resist leaks. Pocket Hose carries over 100 patents worldwide. And now for a limited time, when you purchase a new Pocket Hose Ballistic, you get a free 360-degree rotating pocket pivot and a free thumb drive nozzle. Just text Tim to 64,000. That's Tim to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. Text Tim to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. Shout out Pocket Hose. Thanks for sponsoring the show. Don't forget, my friends, you got to go to timcast.com and click Join Us to get involved. You got to get in the Discord community because community is everything. It's not what you know, it's who you know. You know, and for a while, we did the Timcast website. We were like, we'll give exclusive content. And then we realized the most valuable thing for you is community. And I genuinely mean this. Something that is valuable to all of the individual members. Some people who have started new projects, started businesses, creative endeavors. They've created their own shows and podcasts. Some people have actually gotten married. Not a joke. Not like everybody, but you know, hey, it can happen. The point is, community is everything. It's why we talked about how we want to do these coffee shops. We want to create community events so people can come together because that's how we save this country, when we share our values and inspire others to join the community. So don't just sit idly by as terrifying, evil forces seek to take this country that our ancestors and the founding fathers have worked so hard to give to us this better future. One way you can fight is to join us, support the work that we do, and get involved yourself at timcast.com. Don't forget to also, my friends, smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know right now. Just share it on all social media. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, of course, we have Bradley Devlin.
Tim, that was fiery. I loved that.
Oh, thank you.
Bradley Devlin, Daily Signal politics editor, host of the Signal Sit Down podcast. It's a weekly show where I interview someone with some insider knowledge of what's going on in Washington, D.C. So check that out and check out thedailysignal.com.
Right on. We got the boys hanging out. We got Brett.
Guys, it's been such a long time. I don't even remember how to do this. But normally, if you want to catch me, I'm on Pop Culture Crisis Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. But I'm excited. Let's get into it.
Yeah, for all those asking, no, it's not a hose in my pocket. Get your pocket hose, Carter Banks.
Totally. And also, let Ian know whether he should have his collar popped or not popped tonight.
Yeah, or maybe one.
That's the kind of language that will get you sued by the likes of E. Jean Carroll, Ian.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Best be careful.
She's feasting at the bone, I hear.
I think I saw the...
What does that mean?
Feasting at the bone.
I don't know yet.
We were out shopping over the weekend and saw like the Pocket Hose somewhere, and Olivia mentioned that that's like a product that they advertise here, and I was like, I did not know that. It was like at like TJ Maxx or something.
How cool. I was like, that's how you know you made it
Yeah.
when you're getting sponsored by a garden hose company.
No, everybody.
They're like,
TV,
this is
man.
the everyman's item.
Plumbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out. Thanks for-
roadways.
Let's
Let's
jump
talk
into the
about
news. We got this from CNN exclusive. DOJ launches a criminal investigation into Trump accuser E. Jean Carroll. I'm just going to say this, guys. It's a slam dunk. Can we be honest? So what I love most about this is that the claim, I'm just going to say it outright. In my opinion, based on reading through the court documents and tracking the news on this, this is the most insane story I've ever heard. It does not make sense. She claims that 30 years ago at the Bergdorf Goodman, Donald Trump went inside, brought her to the second floor, went to a dressing room where they engaged in relations, and she did not want to. But they didn't say that he raped her. It's weird. They said it was like, yeah, they didn't call it rape. So when everyone's like, Trump was found civilly liable for rape, no, it was something else. Because I think the claim was that it's the weirdest story. She went with him to this dressing room, so she claims, but then in there, Trump pushed it too far. So they were like, well, now here's the problem. She claimed to have been wearing a dress that didn't exist at the time. It's like a very famous designer dress. Donald Trump owned the hotel across the street, so he had no reason to bring her into a busy building where the most famous man in New York would have easily been recognized. Her story, there was no one in the second floor, which makes no sense because it was one of the biggest department stores, and she couldn't even explain how they unlocked the door. So Donald Trump says she made the whole thing up because she wanted to sell a book. Well, here's the story. They say, the DOJ has launched a criminal investigation into E. Jean Carroll. The investigation is focused on whether she committed perjury in testimony tied to her two civil lawsuits against the president. One alleging he sexually abused Carroll in New York in a department store in the mid-90s, and a second one for defaming her when he denied the assault. Guys, can we just... So Trump denies it ever happened, and she calls that defamation and sues him again. Can we talk about rigged insanity?
Didn't they make him have some kind of weird gag order where he wasn't allowed to talk about it?
I think that was a different case. I think that might have been the civil fraud. That might have been the criminal. There's so many fake cases in New York against them. They say the prosecutor's theory hinges on a 2022 deposition statement by Carroll, 82, that she received no outside funding for her lawsuit, though it was later revealed that billionaire Reid Hoffman had paid some legal fees and expenses. Her team declined to comment further the story. Apparently, there was another deposition. So I'm just going to say this. There's like this debate, I don't know if Jubilee did it or something, where you've got a bunch of libs and a bunch of conservatives on one side. And I think it's like that Parker dude asks, like, would you support a person who's found civilly liable for sexual abuse? Or like, would that be disqualifying? And a bunch of people on the right, like, they don't raise their hand. It's like, aha, I got you. Because it's fake. It's all fake. Well, don't worry. Now with this, you want to play stupid games, I'll play stupid games with you. Anybody ever comes to me and says, yeah, but Donald Trump was found civilly liable for sexual abuse, I'll be like, isn't she under criminal investigation for making that up? No, shouldn't. Hey, listen. If you want to get into the details of why your story makes no sense, we can. If you want to get into the details of what it means to an investigation, we can. But I'm not playing the stupid game. Moot point now. She's being investigated for impropriety related to these claims. So let's just wash it all away and drop it.
What gets me about it is that she kind of came out of the woodwork while he was running for office and extremely unpopular. It seemed like she had been provoked to do it. I don't know if someone asked her or incited her or called her and was like, hey, if anybody know anything ever bad happened, so she brings us up with, I can't say no evidence because the evidence of impropriety is her testimony. That's all. There was, as far as I know, zero evidence outlying.
She couldn't even remember the year. She just said at some point during the mid-90s, it was a conflict between 95 and 96. This is the level that we're dealing with here. And you also mentioned the defamation side of this thing. Once the civil case came down and said that Trump had done this thing, then they treated it as fact, even though the standard of proof is so much lower for a civil case like this. It's unbelievable. Also, you mentioned it, Tim. They said that he was convicted of rape over and over and over again after this ruling came out. But what nobody decided to mention was the fact that the people on the jury recognized it was not rape, but the judge, this leftist judge who was presiding over the case, basically wrapped the whole thing up in the bow and said, it's basically rape. And so they used the judge's comments to run with that. And it's just so obvious how weaponized these progressive states are against conservative causes, against Republican candidates. And frankly, I know that there's this big tiff right now in Washington over this weaponization fund for normal folks getting targeted by the government. This is what you're up against, and you need to get real serious about that type of stuff.
It's like when Christine Blasey Ford attacked Kavanaugh during the confirmation hearings, and the accusations got more and more ridiculous, and it became kind of an S test, to say the least, about how much, it's like, what's the saying? It's like, don't be so open-minded that you let your brain fall out. Right. Like, depending on how steeped you are in politics and how dirty, whether you know how dirty things actually get with something as serious as a Supreme Court nomination, the average well-meaning person might be like, well, why would they lie about that? Why wouldn't they tell the truth about that? Even if all the evidence afterwards or all the testimony afterwards, nobody could corroborate, nobody knew what was, what she was talking about, all that stuff. A lot of people they don't understand how dirty it gets in politics.
And I love what Tim said. It's a moot point now. She's getting investigated for this. The only way out of this,
that proves it.
It feels like it's mutually assured destruction is like the only way out of this lawfare thing.
I think she should. I think the story is obviously insane.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe her for 2 seconds, and I think she should go to prison.
I mean, they sounds like they hooked up. Maybe
Why?
Donald Trump. I don't know. It'd be a weird.
Why would Trump go into a department store when he owns the hotel across the street?
I don't know. Maybe he just wanted to change a venue.
How come
looking out the same windows?
Why
every
was the department store empty?
Maybe he bought the guy. I don't know. I'm getting crazy here.
Yeah, her story makes
don't know.
How was she wearing a dress that didn't exist at the time?
I don't know. Maybe she was like, they were making out and she's like, hey, come on, I've had enough. And you're like, bro,
Ian,
what? You came here.
How was she wearing clothes, a designer dress that didn't exist at the time?
Dude, it's all, I don't
Could it be that she made it
I don't
all up?
disbelieve it. I don't believe it. I see zero evidence. I have no reason to believe it except that she said it
How was she able to sue
years ago.
How was she able to sue 30 years after it happened?
Because the courts wanted to get Donald Trump to not be able to run for office. Obviously, they were using her.
You mean the Democrats?
Yeah, whoever was in charge.
But there's a question. There's an actual question. How was she able to sue 30 years later?
I don't know. I still don't know.
They passed a law just so she could.
It is crazy, dude. This is
3 years after she made the claim, they created a law in New York just so that she could sue Trump.
I kind of think
it's fake.
Like, Bradley, I think you're right that this mutually assured destruction thing, like, they're like, look, we cannot let this happen again. If rando people are going to come out of the woodwork to target a guy running for president with some crap statement that from 30 years ago that you kind of remember, we got to make sure those people don't step up and do that. And this is why, because you'll get jacked for perjury. I don't know what was the perjury charges. What did she say specifically?
The perjury charges is that she did not receive funding for her lawsuit when Reid Hoffman, a noted antagonist against Trump, like very well-known and Trump antagonist, supported her lawsuit. And so Reid Hoffman, for example, was one of the people who backed the Nikki Haley effort in New Hampshire, saying, Democrats should really throw money at trying to prevent Trump the nomination in 2024. So that's what they're trying to get her on here. I also think, like, the way that we move forward with this lawfare stuff is, I think what Republicans and conservatives learned through the weaponization against Trump and his supporters during the Biden administration is sometimes the process is the punishment. And I'm not saying every one of these indictments is perfect. We just had the indictment with the SPLC. I know some people have some qualms with the way that the SPLC thing was being carried out. Whatever, man. The point is that if you never make a move against these people, you don't put them back in line. And that's why I support the Comey stuff. I support all this stuff. And anyone that we can get to hold them accountable is totally worth it.
A Bergdorf Goodman manager testified the doors automatically lock when closed. It was common practice. They were closed. She explained that it was unusual, but they found a door that was open. Like, listen, the whole story makes no sense. Again, I'm just looking this up. Critics have pointed out that the Donna Karan dress that she owned did not match the timeline for availability during her accusation.
This is part of the reason why you don't charge cases 30 years after the fact, because, like, good luck getting an eyewitness to remember anything 3 weeks later, let alone 30 years after.
She said the lingerie department was uncharacteristically empty. I'm like, just, and then Trump, and then Trump stumbled out of the room, found a winning lottery ticket, and everyone clapped, right? Yeah. It's just ridiculous. Remember that chick who claimed Brett Kavanaugh was lying, that people would, guys, first of all, there was some guy who made a claim that, like, Brett Kavanaugh raped a woman on a boat and then had to, like, oops, I lied about it. Why did he just make that up? Then there was that woman that claimed that Brett Kavanaugh and a bunch of guys at frat parties would lock women in rooms, line up outside the door where she was enslaved so they could take turns gang raping her. This is insane. That lady, what's her face? What was her name? Was it Christina Hoff Sommers or whatever?
Christine Blasey
She's
Christina Hoff Sommers.
No, not her. Not her. Who was it?
Christine Blasey Ford.
Blasey Ford. Oh, not the other one. We like the other one.
We like the other one.
Blasey Ford. Yeah. She says that she's, like, afraid to fly. And they're like, you're afraid to fly? Do you ever fly? And she goes, I do. And they're like, are you afraid to fly? Yes. But you fly? Yes. Did you ever fly on vacation? Yes. So you're lying? She's like, I had to install a second door on my house because I'm so scared. And they're like, you mean the second door that you used to Airbnb the other part of her house? Yes. It's all fake and made up.
Well, I said, like, the average person hears that. Like I was saying earlier, I don't think the average person knows how dirty politics gets. And I think one of the saddest parts about all of these stories, if you're new to politics or you don't pay attention very closely, just the idea that there are Democrat judges or Republican judges is already, like, a really depressing thing to come to the realization for, because you're supposed to think of judges as, like, arbiters of doling out justice that's uniform to the entirety of the state, right, or to the country. So just knowing that you're going to have to deal with activism from the bench, in, aside from all the lawfare from the government, is one of the most depressing parts about that. But when the Christine Blasey Ford stuff was coming out, people were saying, like, why would she lie? And you're like, it's a Supreme Court nomination that's going to have drastic, I mean, look at what's happened since then. We've had Roe v. Wade since then. Like, there's drastic implications for the country when somebody's put on the bench. So yes, why would they lie? We know why.
I feel like this may be the apex of what a modern civil war would look like. People are not so, it's not so much they're maybe not willing to get ultra violent. I mean, maybe it is possible. But the concern is we're in a psychological battle. The idea is not to control people through force, but to control them through thoughts. And so it's a battle for legitimacy. Let's jump to the story. If we got this from Reuters. Trump-backed candidates landslide in Texas give Democrats hope in November. Really? Let me put it like this. All of Trump's endorsements have won. Thomas Massie lost. Cornyn lost. These are long-standing incumbents. Trump said, nah, I want somebody else, and the people came out and voted for them. I do not see Democrats winning in November. Let me clarify. What I'm saying is the probability lies with the Republicans. In the House, they've got like a three or so seat advantage right now. So Democrats have to win more toss-ups than Republicans do. In the Senate, Democrats would have to flip one of two potential. They'd have to flip Texas, which sounds insane, or Alaska, which sounds insane. They have to win every toss-up and flip a Republican state. The polls do not show this. So right now, the probability seems to be with Republicans. Democrats are broke. They're $3 million in debt with very little cash on hand. Republicans have no debt and $200 million. But Democrats they're liberal and lefty activists still funding something. But they're funding extremism, far left violence, riots. I think it is obvious where this is going. Let me put it like this. USAID crushed, deep state crushed, routed, fleeing. They're putting their money into Antifa, terrorism, violence, etc. There was that old man who got beaten to death. He had that house, all the Trump signs on it. And you look at this Hassan Piker thing where he's calling out the Singham guy for funding all this far left extremism. Republicans are funding politicians to win. It looks to me like where we are headed, Trump is going after E. Jean Carroll. He's going after Comey. They are going to go after these cronies and these shills and these liars and manipulators. They are going to use the weight of institutional power against them. And the left and these liberal extremists, liberal extremists is a funny phrase, they are going to fund Antifa and violence. And you are going to have the U.S. government versus these insurgent factions. That's what it feels like.
That's a really interesting thought, because if you think about these races, even in California, for example, I know incumbents have a massive advantage, but he's moved districts because of the redistricting, and he's trying to fend off Democratic pressure by becoming an independent and going soft on a whole bunch of issues, which will be an interesting race next week. But Republicans seem to be good on the cash front, and Democrat campaigns don't seem to be doing that well on the cash front. And if it turns into Republicans are going to continue having this cash on hand electoral advantage, then yes, you get the Republicans get elected, and then you create a crisis in their capacity to govern, a crisis that creates an emergency that when you have the opportunity to retake power, you come down like a ton of bricks and it becomes a one-party state. I think that's with your Civil War analogy there, right? Like, really the contest, the Civil War we have right now is who can get to one-party control quicker.
I don't see how Democrats can come back from this. They're broke.
They are going to spend $100 million on this race at the least. They're going to spend $100 million on Plattner.
But
it's going to be great.
Let's clarify. The DNC, the Democratic establishment, is broke, but they're putting money into individual campaigns.
Right.
This shows that they are decentralized. So the roach has been stepped on and it's splattered. Now there's little eggs everywhere. But again, centralization in a political party is power. It's organization. They're not going to be able to unify with a bunch of random... Look, guys, Tallarico's got the charisma of a stink bug. I mean, let's just be real. I don't see the dude winning. It makes no sense. Homeboy has a campaign video from 2022 where he's like, our campaign is vegan because climate change is a problem. We got to cut back on meat in the state that is the largest beef producer in the country. Dude is going to lose all of the lobbying dollars and all the money from one of the biggest industries in the country centered in Texas. You mean to tell me that these ranchers are going to be like, yeah, I'll vote for him? No, they're going to start putting every penny they have against this guy. Now, they put out this picture of him eating a turkey leg to prove he's not vegan. Guys, I don't care if he himself is vegan. He said no meat. Climate change. I hope every Texas rancher hears that.
Well, plus they're hypocrites anyways. So that's exactly what a politician would do, would be to say one thing and then do another thing. It feels in a lot of ways like they're waiting for something bad to happen. Do you see the videos the other day of Nick Sorter posted of like ICE allowing their vehicles to be searched by like leftist activists leaving a building, and then the next day they were getting it was like somebody went to the administration, was like, you can't let this happen, it makes you look weak.
They let leftist activists
they were like
search?
letting them, like, that was what Nick Sorter had posted. You might be able to find it. And then the following day they were not allowing this to happen. Like somebody said, you cannot be seen on camera giving quarter to them in these situations. It just feels like we're waiting for another summer incident to happen that they can campaign on.
Did you guys see the video where the two Mexican guys walk out of the ICE facility and all the activists start screaming and cheering? And then it turns out they were employees just going home.
No.
I will say that
One of the ICE employees was like, yo, those guys work here. What? Like, you're so racist.
I will say I'm all for this copium that Democrats are slinging around right now. Because as you said, right, he's not going to win any rancher, any of the big industry dollars in Texas, but Democrats are still going to pour a ton of money into it. I remember in 2020, they spent collectively between Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, which I'm like the last person in the world to defend either of those two guys, but they spent over $200 million on those campaigns, and you think to yourself, wow, scarcity is real. Resources are finite. It's fantastic that they decided they're going to blow that money on safe Republican races and not in other areas where we can overperform. So I'm all for them thinking that they have a chance in these races. Let's make sure that they think that as long as possible, so they spend as much money as possible going down in defeat.
So the Democrats post this picture of Tallarico, and my first thought was like, you know, if someone said you could look gay eating a leg of turkey, I'd be like, what do you mean? And then I saw this picture and wow, they figured it out.
Wait, who was the one that was making the cheeseburger on the grill and the cheese was already on it? Yeah.
The cheese was not.
Hello there, fellow meat eaters.
Yeah. So a shout out to Siraj Hashmi, who in response to this photo posted this: when I'm in a gay competition and my opponent is James Tallarico.
Look at that eye contact.
It's a Squidward freaking out. You've lost.
This is.
Real quick though. He's gay, right?
It looks like.
I mean, that's fun. I got no beef. You're allowed to be gay. I'm just saying, like, you know, he's gay, right?
He loves trans children.
Chewing into that meat. I think that this is like
Is he feasting at the bone?
he's taking it to the center, dude. He's
Here you
taking
go.
it all the way.
Here you go, everybody.
Going
issues
hard.
of
Listen to
animal
this.
welfare. We have, I think, heard more and more issues of animal welfare. I think not just because it's the right thing to do and the moral thing to do, but also it's, as all of you know, necessary to fight climate change. It is now existential that we try to reduce our meat consumption and that we try to respect animals in all aspects of society. And so I am proud to say that our campaign has officially become a non-meat campaign. So we are only buying vegan products from our local vegan businesses. Some of you may know Big Nonas. They were little Nonas, and then they.
This is back in 2022. So a lot of people are like, why is he wearing a mask?
Yeah.
It's from 2022. It's
not
But here's the important point. He's going to change his image now that he's going statewide, and he needs to convince everybody. So they're posting cringe like this. Wear a Texas shirt and eat some turkey. I'm assuming that's turkey. Dude, we get it. You eat meat. But you have stated you will not buy animal-based products because of climate change. What do you think that means when he gets into office, what he is going to do to the cattle ranchers in Texas?
Yeah, I think, firstly, meat's not the problem. They're developing stem cell meat where you can grow it in a laboratory and eat it. Whatever you think about it, Ew, it's always gross when you haven't done it yet. Don't be a Luddite. Astronauts need to eat meat in space. We're going to be growing meat in space. It's okay. It's industrial agriculture. It's nasty, and it's horrible for the animals in a lot of cases.
Hold
That's
on.
a different conversation, and it's tough for a politician to bring up because it's a huge money maker.
Right, well, we got to pause because ranchers, majority of ranchers are not industrialized agriculture.
Exactly, yeah. But if you want to talk about climate change and the terror that you're putting animals through, talk about the industrial agricultural system. That's a different conversation.
That is propaganda from leftists.
I don't think so, man. Have you ever smelled a pig farm? They don't even let things fly over these pig farms because of all the feces and blood.
You ever been there? You ever been to one of these places?
I have not. Have seen.
I have.
Have you?
I've been to cattle ranches. I've been to dairy farms.
I've seen dudes smashing piglets on the ground, like on video.
Indeed, you've seen a lot of propaganda videos of bad people doing bad things. I went to cattle ranches and I went to dairy farms to interview people, and what I found was cows walking around doing whatever they want.
Okay, but there's also.
Have you driven around? We got cattle farms.
We do. I just took a couple pictures of them on my Instagram. Check it out.
Exactly. All over where we are cattle ranches. What are the cows doing all day?
Eating,
walking
drinking,
around,
chilling.
Bro, there's a stream over here. It is the most whimsical magic. Hold on. I got it, because you know what I'm talking about, right? When you drive down this road, there is a springtime stream. It only exists in springtime. And you're under these canopies of trees winding around the bend, and you drive over this little, it's like the road keeps going, but the water flows underneath, and there are cows and calves gleefully prancing through the stream, drinking fresh spring water.
You've returned. I just saw them on my way over here. You've returned to the.
That's not what I'm talking about, but that is nice. No, you're in the forest, and there's a springtime stream, and you're driving past it, and you just need to stop, and you see a little calf prancing around and splashing in the water, and we're gonna eat them. Yeah, they are going to be food, but it is not this insane they're whipping and beating the cows.
No, but you'll see a crate because when people slaughter and they're slaughterers, that's their nature. They get desensitized to what they're doing. They don't think of them as sentient creatures. They just smash them until they're dead, like the little ones.
You're talking about bad guys who did bad things.
You know? Yeah, that's just the nature
when they kill cows, they have that thing they put on the head and go thump, and it's humane and it's instant.
Captive bolt gun.
What is it called?
Captive bolt gun.
What is it?
Captive bolt gun.
Captive bolt gun.
Bolt gun.
Like that dude from No Country for Old Men.
I wanted to make.
And he puts it real close to the guy's head, and he's just looking at it. And
I wanted to talk a little bit about this Democratic Republican thing because I think that the deep state has switched sides, the uniparty. So I look at this as kind of level 4, and we're headed towards level 5.
Wait. What does that mean? They switched.
What's level 4?
Basically, when Trump got a hold of what I believe is when he got a hold of the Epstein files and he seized power and authority with his administration, everyone that was playing the game with USAID is all right, we're going with the winner. We don't care who it is. Deep state unifies around
Who's
Trump.
that?
I don't know yet. But
so why are they still rallying in Virginia and other blue states?
Because it's not a monolith. There's a lot of people that are just politically
you're saying that there are prominent elites who basically said, I will do whatever you say.
It used to be they were with the Bush Jr. administration. Then when Obama got in, they switched sides to the Democrats. Now they switched sides back to the Republicans. I feel like the Republicans are going to take and sweep this next election. I'm concerned about next level when we have to really be concerned about a uniparty growing out of this, a technocratic uniparty in 2028, 2032. So save your potions, basically, because the big battle.
Let me pull this up real quick. We have this from the Hill. Trump, quote, I don't care about the midterms. And it's funny because when you first see this story, a lot of people I know reacted by like, oh no, like Trump saying, no, Trump's saying we won. He's saying we've won. He says they thought they were going to outweight me. We'll outweight them. We got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms. Look what happened last night. That was the prelude to the midterms. He's basically saying when Trump says vote, he wins. And he doesn't see a big difference between the Republican primaries and Republican versus Democrat. And I think there's an interesting point to be made. The DNC as a centralized organism is done. They're broke and donations are going to individual candidates. There is no unified party. There is no party leader. I do not see how a decentralized spattering of random politicians with disparate funding can go up against a centralized Republican machine. Mm-hmm. Trump has got powerful donors, big tech billionaires now on his side. I do not see how when it comes to the grand scheme of things, he ends up losing on this one. Not to mention, we do have these crazy challenges with the redistricting, but I think, I think Tennessee has won. I think, was it Missouri?
South Carolina balked. Missouri's in.
A federal district court just blocked Alabama, defying the Supreme Court precedent, which is insane. They're going to win that one. When you look at the polling data right now, Democrats have a massive uphill battle for the House and the Senate. They can win. But when Trump says, I don't care about the midterms, we're going to win, I think people need to consider the lengths Trump is willing to go to win. And he mentioned his election integrity army. I have to wonder. We saw that story with Ashley St. Clair where she claimed Elon texted her saying, I'm going to use my space lasers. It's an anomaly in the matrix they'll never see coming or something like this. She's making the argument that Elon was insinuating he's using Starlink to win. I wonder if what Elon... If the story is true, could Elon have just been saying, we are tracking polling data in ways they can't understand. We are tracking sentiment. Like the idea being with Starlink, Elon has a really good grasp of public sentiment. They were able to target with proper campaign ads, more efficient spending, which is why he was like, this is how we win. Okay. Her argument is that he flipped the votes or whatever. My point ultimately is this. These tools that Trump has and the allies that he has have either, let's just call it nefarious means or legitimate and powerful tech means to win elections. I don't see how Democrats can pull a victory off decentralized.
I have a question for you on the Elon thing.
Yeah.
And perhaps I have missed something here, but if Elon had that capability, why wouldn't he use it for Massey as a test run? If Massey won that primary, I don't think anyone would have been surprised.
Why would he?
Because wasn't he supporting Massey's primary effort at the beginning?
I don't know.
Did they? Okay. Because I thought that he came
also, just because he says he would, even if he said he supported it, doesn't mean he did.
Yeah.
But my point is this. My point is there's two ways, there's a million ways you can view this. If Ashley St. Clair's story is true, honestly, I think what makes the most sense is Elon has an ISP, an internet service provider. He has access to the browsing data of large swaths of the population. They can see how to target these individuals. This means he can simply say, Trump, what we're seeing a lot of in the data, we're seeing searches for immigration, economics. You target these keywords, you are going to be reaching people in ways the Democrats won't even understand.
I just thought, I've been screaming about freeing the software code. Free the software code so you can read the data. You know if your voting machines are flipping votes because you have access to the code. But maybe they'll build an AI that can just reverse engineer the code. I think they're going to. So good luck with your proprietary attempt. It's all going open.
That's the idea that he has a massively valuable political asset is fascinating, because I remember I'm seeing the drawing of him right there, Charlie Kirk. I remember kind of early days, like 2017, 2018, someone came up to me and they said, Charlie Kirk is the most valuable asset in the conservative movement. And I was like, Turning Point USA, like I love Turning Point USA, but the most valuable asset in the conservative movement? Really? Yeah, it's not the organization. It's the fact that he has lists upon lists upon lists of young, dedicated conservative activists. And we saw that, as Susie Wiles said, we won in 2024 because of the work Charlie did. We saw that come to fruition in 2024 with the turnout machine he built there. And so the idea that this is a hidden asset that Elon has is really interesting, because if it's used for good, great. I like when the good guys win. But that type of stuff can be used for
the question is, does he have satellites that can flip votes, or does he just have access to data that these insights will
are they
level.
supposed to
Even the data
believe
is super powerful.
that
right? Even that is super powerful.
like are we supposed to believe that the smartest man in the world is going to like
Wait.
like Elon Musk? If Elon Musk is,
You're saying he's the smartest man in the
I'm
world?
saying if he's one of
You're talking
the
about me. You were talking about me.
well, people
Oh, okay.
people
But what
say
about
that Elon Musk is one of the smartest men in the world, right?
One of,
Correct?
yeah.
That is,
I've not heard that.
Okay. He is considered very, very smart, considering the size of the businesses that he's built and the stature that he has, is going to put into text, which can be tracked, some type of admission of guilt.
Exactly what I thought. He was messing with Ashley.
Or she's lying
He doesn't have space
because she's a
lasers.
lying liar who
Or-
lies. I don't know.
Texted her
I
some
mean,
goofy
no,
shit. He's
I
like,
imagine he said that,
manifesting.
but like, what does that even mean? I'm going to deploy my space lasers, my anomaly in the matrix.
I mean, wouldn't a smart person try to avoid any level of?
He could be talking smack. Remember when James O'Keefe stung that New York Times guy who was like bragging about having access to like, I can't remember what the story was, but he was talking big game. And then he was like, we saw this social media reporter for the New York Times admitting this. And I was like, yeah, I know that guy. I think he's just trying to get laid, dude.
Yeah, if I was like, I'm going to channel the will of God to make sure we win, you would know that I was like, I don't actually have access to the will of God. Not literally, anyway. Not that I know of. I mean, I do, but, you know.
Historically, how did they didn't do so well in Trump's first term at the midterms, right?
Yeah, but the map, so this is, I think Tim's getting at something important here too with the redistricting stuff. The map is fundamentally different now.
Well, let me just say something about 2018, the midterms. The polling data all suggested that a high probability Republicans would actually hold. And then somehow, slowly, weeks after the midterms, Democrats started winning.
Night of, it looked like there was no blue wave. It was a facade.
And I actually have several videos where they're like blue wave fizzles, doesn't happen. But then over the next couple of weeks, Democrats started finding votes.
It was
Indeed.
I remember doing interviews that night and just going on, yeah, blue wave not materializing. You know, we overperform again with Trump on the ballot, yada yada. And then all of a sudden, tick, tick, drip, drip, drip. But the point is, there's not that many gettable seats anymore because of all the redistricting, which is not something that we caused by deciding we wanted to redistricting Texas as conservatives. No, this is a complete and total farce. They've been doing this for generations, and finally, conservatives, Republicans decided to start playing that game. And now the number of seats up for grabs realistically is like 20 tops. So the biggest majority they're going to get is like 10 assuming they sweep everything. And we know, given what we're seeing in these Senate primaries, that a lot of their candidates have major, major, major liabilities. In California, for example, there's a 10-term Democratic congressman that's getting challenged by a member of this Sacramento City Council, Mai Vong, and she's just going viral this week over every single city hall meeting. She decides to stand and face away from the flag as they do the Pledge of Allegiance and not say the Pledge of Allegiance. So if that's the team that they're rolling with, if she wins her primary in California next Tuesday, if that's the team that they're rolling with, I think Republicans and conservatives have every reason to be very confident going into a midterm where the fundamentals might not be great, but there's not that much up for grabs.
Thomas Massey has filed to run again in 2028. But did he say something like he was not sure like what he was going to run for just yet?
He did.
What did he say? He said
He said he didn't know what he was
wasn't
going to
sure.
run for. Could be president. Could
My
be Congress.
conspiracy theory, again, I've talked about it quite a bit, but it was like a few months ago. How long ago was it when Joe Kent resigned? It was a couple months, right?
It was March.
That was when we were.
When that happened, again, I know most of you guys have heard me talk about it, but just for the conversation, for the context, I heard some Beltway rumors that Tulsi was going to resign, that Joe Kent's still friends with Trump. This is actually part of the plan. Tucker is still friends with Trump. It's part of the plan. And the game is they are going to try and take control of what the left is. They are creating the new opposition to Trump.
Oh, awesome.
So they want politics to be like 2012, Obama-Romney, where it's like kind of vanilla pudding, but based around MAGA. So you take the left flank of MAGA, Tulsi Gabbard, and she either runs as an independent spoiler or, over the course of the next couple of years, actually realigns the Democratic Party. If they lose the midterms, she will be poised to say the Democrats need a wake-up call. And a lot of people, like right now, the polls show the party is split 50-50 between going further left or staying more moderate and moving slightly more to the center. I don't know if she'll go as Democrat or Tucker or anything like that, but the theory is that MAGA is splitting in a certain way so that Democrats become this like decayed appendage. MAGA breaks into two factions, and then left and right both lead to the same road, MAGA.
So this is a repeat of the Jacksonian era of U.S. politics.
How so?
Perhaps.
Where the Jacksonians, basically after the death of the Whig Party, they all kind of rally around Jackson, and they kind of split into two different Jacksonian factions. And then, of course, the errors of the Jacksonian system lead to the rise of the Republicans later on. But this is...
Here you go.
Like
the Democratic Republican Party, going back to 1792. I always found that was really funny that it was called the Democratic Republican Party. Now we have the Democratic Party and the Republican Party.
Yeah. So when we talk about, creating this new lane here, do you believe that the reason for Tulsi's resignation is more about foreign policy and less about her husband?
Well, let me just put it like this. I don't know, but I will say when I said that the rumor we're hearing is that she's going to resign and it's for political reasons, my first reaction was to reach out to, we're hearing these rumors. So I reach out directly to people in that sphere. I don't want to say exactly who, people's privacy and whatever. And I was told unequivocally, no, it's not happening. And a lot of people also told me, even on this show, like, she's not going to resign. It's not happening. She resigned. Now, of course, the reason is the abrupt health issue of her husband. But I say, yeah, maybe.
But I will say, there is a lane now. The Ted Cruz lane was the one that, because Ted Cruz has decided he wants to run for president. And the lane was going to be, I'm MAGA without the tariffs, right? You can remember after Liberation Day,
tariffs.
he was doing a bunch of there was Axios pieces saying, he's talking about this with fundraising people at the Capitol Grill and all this nonsense. Then the Iran war started and Ted Cruz didn't have a lane anymore. But there is a lane to the non-interventionist right of Trump in the wake of this. And that lane could be theoretically filled by a Thomas Massie character or a Tulsi Gabbard character.
Gabbard Massey 2028.
So
Fetterman 2028. Let's go.
I think
rolling down a hill.
Gabbard Massey 2028.
Yes.
And that in a Republican primary, Trump's going to play kingmaker, but you can make yourself so much of a nuisance, just like RFK Jr. did in 2024, where he really fought that battle and he got brought into the movement again. I think that could be in the cards for a movement like that. It would be pretty darn popular.
I just have to wonder. I have to wonder about all this. Right? The moves Massey has made have been endearing to moderates and libertarians. He's always kind of been, he's always been a big favorite for the libertarians. But recently, going hard with the Epstein stuff and teaming up with Ro Khanna has attracted the attention of default libs. There are a lot of people, you can see who I tweeted sometimes, I won't call them out right now. They are liberal only in that they hate Donald Trump. They love Thomas Massie. If Massie ran as an independent, or I don't see how, but as a Democrat, if the Democratic Party realigned or something, I don't see that being feasible. He would get a lot of default libs. So I think there's a strong probability of a spoiler third-party run from Gabbard, Massey, Kent, or otherwise that pulls default libs, and then it goes 30, 40.
I'm wondering
30 Democrat, 30 Independent, 40 Trump wins.
about J.D. Vance, because
I'm sorry, just to clarify, the successor to Trump.
Which
Trump
it sounds like it's going to be Rubio if the rumors are true.
I don't think so.
Well, J.D. Vance apparently has been, I don't know if this is true. This is what I read, that he's been iced out, that he's being iced out because he was anti-war. He thinks the Iran thing was a bad idea. Tulsi was his biggest ally in the admin. Now she's leaving. So he's considering not running for president, which is crazy because he's the front runner, which would mean it's got to be Rubio.
No, I think
Daily Mail
Rubio
reported this. I think this is total, utter baloney. The idea that the sitting vice president, who has been on record or on background from day one as not supporting this war, now on background reporting from the New York Times and others have suggested that Ratcliffe, that Rubio, that all these other members of the administration also expressed their skepticism over the war after Netanyahu came and met with Trump prior to the launch of the campaign. And so while they have not all been consistent the entire time, the only person in the admin who has been consistent has been the vice president on this. They have changed their tune and said, actually, behind closed doors, I was against this war with Iran. You don't give the vice president the number one thing going for your domestic agenda right now in a electorate that is starved for domestic policy wins if you don't think that he is the heir apparent. Let's remember, he was chosen 2 days after President Trump was nearly killed in Butler, Pennsylvania. You're thinking about your legacy. You're thinking about your heir. And he chose J.D. Vance. And now J.D. Vance is leading the anti-fraud task force, which you say like, oh, another commission, another fraud task. No, it's a real thing. It is doing the Doge work plus so much more. And that was a major focal point of today's cabinet meeting because this is the number one thing that the Trump administration has going for it right now on the domestic front. Yes, the deportations are happening. Yes, the Trump economy, once undone from the shackles of this war, will perform very well. But people want accountability and they want to know where their tax dollars are going. They want transparency. And the vice president is leading that effort right now. And so I think he's still the heir.
Based on the way things are right now, and it's an eternity to 2028, Rubio does seem to make the most sense. People are burned out on culture war politics. I do feel like while woke still exists, right? When you win a war, the ideology exists, it's just suppressed. Woke is mostly dead. I mean, these studios, the movie studios, TV shows, they've burned so much money, they've kind of backed off. I've had some conversation with some industry guys who were saying that, like, behind the scenes, they know they'll never get away with this stuff. It's just not going to happen. And so when you think about that, J.D. Vance is a culture warrior. I kind of feel like people are just, their brains are just shocked to the point of numbness as it pertains to culture war issues. Rubio is so vanilla, so bland and boring. It's kind of the guy you want to hire. I feel like if it was right now, a lot of people, I think the prediction market showed this too, people would be like, just give me the boring suit-wearing guy who's just very droll, you know?
That's how I felt about my conspiracy theory is that the conspiracies have been pushed out of control so that people will just start accepting whatever the dude in the suit on the TV tells them because they're sick of having to worry about all of it because there's so much of it being thrown everywhere.
Yeah, look, so it's not exactly right now. Rubio and Vance are neck and neck. It's a statistical tie, with Vance at 32 to Rubio's 30 in the call sheet prediction market. So,
both have their
but
own
Rubio's
genetics,
skyrocketing.
So look at Rubio skyrocketed win.
Look at Tucker Carlson.
Venezuela operation. That is also hilarious. Like, Tucker is third in this.
That's great.
Well, because he made that, he like jokingly referenced the run
the
for
Ted
office.
Cruz thing was funny.
Which Ted Cruz thing?
When he was like, I would love to debate Ted Cruz again. In fact, I would run for president just to do it again.
Yep.
I feel like Marco Rubio, fluent Spanish speaker, could unify the Western Hemisphere. The guy, talk about bringing, South America under the influence. Not that they weren't already under the influence of the United States, but generally, like. And I like J.D. Vance better from a distance. I don't know either of them yet. I'd like to talk to both of them.
I think people are just tired of being like, oh, we need to elect the Spanish speaker because we need to make sure that we shore up the Western Hemisphere. I'm all with you on the geopolitical stuff. Like, this is our own backyard. We need to protect it. But the idea that like people are just, they want a domestic policy president. That's what they want. They want the issues at home to be fixed. And you said that JD was a culture warrior. This is more surprising to me because my take on JD is that he has leaned in at certain points to the culture war stuff, but at the end of the day, he's always been really focused on reshoring manufacturing, on all of that type of development.
All that's true, but look at his ex, where he posts insults and he's a culture warrior.
Good point.
I want to be. Can I be as offensive and conspiratorial as possible?
Yeah, actually.
And one of the challenges with being friends with so many people in politics is that. Let me put it like this. There's a handful of people you guys know I'm not friends with that I'll say really horrifying things about. Like, I'll insult. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that guy clearly does not like the person. But Thomas Massey's a good dude. I consider him a friend of the show. And I've been a big fan of Tulsi for a long time. So I will start by saying, to insinuate Tulsi didn't actually resign over the health of her husband, I can understand why that may come off as disrespectful to Tulsi, who has always been very nice to us, though. She's never been on the show or anything like that. Massey's been on the show several times, and he's a friend. He's a friend of ours. That being said, I have to bring this up because this is a relevant point in the timeline, though I'm not trying to claim this to be true or anything. So let me just be very delicate. There are a lot of conspiracy theories about Charlie Kirk's death. Obviously, he was killed by somebody. I believe that the most likely scenario is it was not a lone shooter. There is social media evidence that there were people with foreknowledge who were tweeting and posting on TikTok that something was going to happen to Charlie Kirk. That was investigated. It seems like there was also a story about a bunch of vehicles in front of his house. if we ask the question, who benefits? I would make the argument that the uniparty machine, the establishment, stood to gain the most by removing Charlie Kirk from the chessboard because he was getting young people to vote Republican. Now that he's gone, who's actually worse off? Well, it's the Republican Party, his wife, and Israel. As much as people want to claim with this ridiculous story that Israel did it. Now, that being said, we will move to a next portion of this story, which I say this just because it existed in the zeitgeist. Thomas Massey's wife died. And do you guys remember the narrative that had emerged around this after she passed, which has not come up for some reason? The insinuation was that they killed Massey's wife because he was pursuing things like Epstein or that he was defying the established order. A lot of people made this claim. They were like, his wife abruptly died without warning. And then people made this claim that all of a sudden he found himself at odds with Donald Trump. Again, I understand that's a sore spot. There's a lot of people I know, mutual friends, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but I would be remiss if because of my personal connections, I didn't bring up that, again, after his wife died, there was a conspiracy theory circulating that it was a threat to Massey, that they'll come after his family unless he does what they tell him to do. While Massey was always kind of at odds with Trump, Trump did endorse him. Now, Trump is fighting against him. So I wonder why that conspiracy theory hasn't reemerged with the likes of Candace Owens.
The one thing I will point out where that is the strongest counter argument that I can think of is Trump called Massey after the death of his wife. And they had what seems to be an extended conversation where Massey tells the story where he's like on his bed in a hotel room and the president calls him and he picks up. It's like, hello. And then all of a sudden he's like thinking that he's going to get a secretary. Hey, I'm going to patch you through. And he's talking to Donald Trump right then and there about it. And Trump seemed very apologetic about the whole thing.
I'm not saying Trump did anything.
No,
the conspiracy theory is that anti-Trump elements went to Massey and they were like, you will do as you are told, and went after his family. And now, actually, I think what you're saying actually lends itself to the conspiracy.
Oh, so
Trump, who called Massey saying, I'm so sorry for what happened to you, now they hate each other?
So you're saying that the conspiracy was deep state elements not attached in whatsoever way to the political apparatus did this?
No, the uniparty establishment. The conspiracy theory at the time was that Massey's wife was assassinated as a threat to Massey to force him to fall in line with the uniparty machine. And now he has become a major thorn in Trump's side. Listen.
You're right, because Trump wasn't in office yet. He was running.
Yeah.
He was running when he
and what ends up happening is when Trump gets in, Massey opposes a lot of the key bills that Trump wanted, citing things like the deficit, too much spending. But these were like, the funding of ICE, the ICE DHS stuff. Massey voted with Republicans 90% of the time on core Republican issues, but on the major things Trump wanted, Massey opposed him. So again, I try to say this with the utmost respect because there's a personal element here, but I would be remiss if I ignored a component of the story because of a personal element. When Massey's wife died, there was a conspiracy theory that she was killed to force Massey to fall in line. That he was adamant, he was resistant, he was a defiant politician. His wife dies. Next thing you know, he and Trump are enemies.
That was one of the first things that crossed my mind when she passed away was, did someone do this to her? But then later I learned that she had been ill for a long time. So I've heard she was ill for a long time with cancer, I think.
My understanding it was abrupt.
It seemed abrupt. I'd never heard anything about her being ill.
I heard both of those things. I heard they said it was abrupt, but I also heard that she had cancer or something like that. But I don't know.
And I heard that as recent as last week from someone that was claiming it. It's tough to tell. I mean, you were talking about how like politics is dirty. Mm-hmm. We're in a democratic republic, and it's like character assassination. But like you go to an empire, it's like
she did not have cancer.
Wow. Okay. Does it say how long she was ill or any of that? And the stress of him being away was probably like just that lifestyle,
She had she had autoimmune myopathy. An unknown type causing respiratory complications.
Oh, geez. Sounds like COVID related.
And there was a ton of character assassination against him afterwards because of him getting remarried. And there was a lot of people having discussions about that. Like I said,
I actually think it's really interesting that, Trump calls him and they're, very amicable. What was it? Trump endorsed Massey. Massey endorsed Trump. Then once Trump gets in, all of the major moves Trump wanted to make, Massey was on the other side of.
It was mostly like omnibus bills and stuff like that. It was all spending related, right?
Exactly. All of the like granular Republican bills. Massey was on board with like 90+%, but it was the major moves Trump wanted to make where Massey was on the other side of it. And a lot of people argue that this is like the key funding for DHS and a lot of the power that was used by a lot of what empowered Trump to say go after USAID and things like this. So I'm not a conspiratorial guy, but I suppose there's no way to be anything other than this, especially right now. Like I was having a conversation with my wife about the Stanford study that was released in 2025 of December that found men aged 30 and under had a myocarditis incident rate of 1 in 16,750 from the COVID vaccine. 1 in 16,750 is not a rare side effect. That is a common side effect, and that is insane because myocarditis has something like it's like a double-digit 5-year mortality rate. When you get myocarditis and pericarditis as a young person, you are shortening your lifespan dramatically. And they lied to us and claimed it wasn't happening. Now, Stanford published this study. At the end of April, Nature.com published a study that said, if the mRNA lipid nanoparticles got into your liver, it suppressed your immunity against COVID. That is published in Nature.com, Nature magazine. So when I see all this stuff, I'm like, all you can be these days is a conspiracy theorist. That's it. I can't tell you how pissed I am about these studies that have come out from Stanford and published by Nature.com. Because, we're kind of getting up to a tangent on this one, but I got to bring this up. During COVID, there were a handful of big conspiracy theories. You get banned for it. The CEO, YouTube Wojcicki or whatever her name was, gleefully, she gloated how she banned people. There were a couple of theories. One, myocarditis was being caused by the vaccine, which they denied. Now we know is true. And Stanford published an incident rate, again, 1 in 16,750. That is horrifying. That means with 13 billion doses, 500,000 young men got myocarditis and pericarditis. Now with this Nature study showing they intended for the COVID vaccine to go into your arm and affect your muscle cells. And if it did, the study found it boosted your immunity to COVID. But if the lipid nanoparticles got into your liver, it would tell your body to allow COVID to stay. It would cause tolerance towards it.
That was the erring according to Brett Weinstein, who was on the show, the biologist, saying that there was an addressing problem with the COVID vaccine. It's supposed to stay local. They thought it would stay local to where they injected it, but it would transfer around, and it was supposed to attach ideally to the right thing, but it would attach to anything. And when it would attach to heart muscle, then your heart muscle produces a spike protein. Your body thinks it's a villain, and it kills off the heart muscle. And that's what these people have been.
So this is let me pull this. Actually, let me pull up the Stanford medicine study. Let's just launch into this. I know I totally just segued. I have to do this.
Liver cleanse.
Take a look at this from Stanford Medicine. Stanford Medicine study shows why mRNA COVID-19 vaccine can cause myocarditis. And they say COVID-19 and less frequently the mRNA-based COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, let's just scroll down. Vaccine-associated myocarditis occurs in about 1 in every 140,000 vaccines after a first dose and rises to 1 in 32,000 after a second dose. For reasons that aren't clear, incidence peaks among male vaccinees age 30 or below at 1 in 16,750 vaccinees. I like that word.
Maybe it's because they have the best circulatory system, so it moves around the fastest. That's my guess. I'm not sure.
They say, Wu noted if the inflammation is severe, the resulting heart injury can be quite debilitating, leading to hospitalizations, ICU admissions for critically ill patients, and deaths, albeit rarely. But COVID is worse. COVID is worse. That's fine. That's fine. Tell me that. But you lied. They lied. They banned people. And now 2025 in December, this is 5 months ago they published this, 1 in 16,000 young men, 30 and under. Then we've got this one. This is a bit harder to parse through because it's very esoteric. mRNA vaccine immunity is enhanced by hepatocyte detargeting and not dependent on dendritic cell expression. To simplify this Nature.com article, they said, in the study, they intentionally had mRNA lipid nanoparticles target 3 different types of cells: muscle, white blood cells, and liver cells. They found that with muscle cell targeting, immunity improved. With the immune system targeting, I think it was a wash. With liver cell targeting, you became more likely to get COVID. It reduced your immunity. So we had these conspiracy theories at the time that you get banned for. One, the vaccine was causing myocarditis. Oh boy. Turns out Stanford said it did at 1 in 16,000. That's not a rare side effect. 1 in 300,000 is what we talk about. 16,000 is horrifying. It's 500,000 based on the doses they gave out of young men. Now with this study, you have the second conspiracy theory that people who got the COVID shot, many of them were getting COVID more often for some reason. Well, once again, this study found that if the mRNA vaccine traveled from the injection site into your liver, it would reduce your immunity to COVID. Holy, it's there right now, nature.com, mainstream, peer-reviewed publication. Maybe they're wrong, they're lying. Hey, you know what, YouTube? Stanford and nature.com are conspiracy theorists. Now you can't ban me.
I just got I'm not a doctor, but if your immunity was reduced, wouldn't that mean that you were more infectious and actually transmitting likely to transmit it more?
It means that when you
vaccine cause people to transmit it even more? I'm not sure. I'm just asking.
Potentially. What it means is, if you got COVID, your immune system would not fight against it. It says in the study, when the vaccine got into the liver, it increased the body's tolerance for COVID, meaning the immune system would not go after it. It had the inverse effect. So initially, they were telling everybody, it's funny, they lied about everything. At first, they said the virus, what did Rachel Maddow say? The virus stops with you if you get this. Then they said it's 90% effective, whatever that meant. They claimed very early on the vaccine would stay in the injection site. Then with myocarditis, and now with this one doesn't definitively prove that the vaccine was causing some people to get COVID more. It just proves that in the event it did go to the liver, it would increase your susceptibility to it. Stands to reason. What Brett Weinstein was saying is they have a targeting issue, addressing issue, meaning maybe they were lying. They inject you with the mRNA. It stays in your arm. It stays in your muscle. As it turns out, it is now believed to freely move about the body. Now, again, real quick, it is confirmed, again, through these journals, and that's why they did the study. The mRNA vaccine did not stay in the arm of every single person. Hence, that's how you get myocarditis. I want to stress this. Stanford outright says the vaccine-associated myocarditis exists. That means when you got injected in the arm, the vaccine traveled from your arm to your heart.
Yeah. Can I add one more thing on this? Scroll down to where he says COVID is worse. Okay? Here's the problem that I have with this. If we're talking about the human cost here, nobody in that age demographic was really getting COVID.
Exactly.
So the raw human cost of the vaccine with this age demographic that is particularly affected by this for some reason is way worse. And this goes to your point about the only option is to be a conspiracy theorist, right? Even when they're telling you the truth 6 years after the fact, it's still couched in baloney lies. But COVID is worse. Okay, why is it worse? Well, because we saw that the rate was higher with COVID. You just generate myocarditis.
Then
okay,
why?
But you didn't force everybody to just get COVID. You forced them to get the COVID vaccine. And so when we're talking about the raw human cost of this
and
thing,
locked them in
so
their
much
houses,
more.
where we know that sunlight to get vitamin D was a great way to boost your immunity. They put people indoors where the virus lingers and would spread, whereas outdoors it dissipates.
The mask. I wonder how much COVID got breathed out into the mask and then breathed back in. How many COVID molecules are
And they talked about how viral load led back then. They were saying the viral load increases the severity of the illness. So maybe when they say you should wear 2 masks, you are keeping the viral load in your breathing.
Also, the ways in which humans overreacted, the general concept, you don't even have to be a conspiracy theorist. Just the irrational idea. It's like, look, this is new. I'm going to wait. I don't feel safe, taking an injection like this without knowing more about what's going on. All the other vaccines that were on the vaccine schedule with everyone to talk about how they prescribed vaccines now. It's like, have decades of testing. This does not. For the sake of my family, I'm not going to do that. And then you made people choose between their jobs and their livelihoods, and you locked them in the house. They put boards over the basketball hoops, so you couldn't even go outside and get any exercise when you're doing it. That's what I just suggested. What I just suggested isn't a conspiracy theorist. It's just a concerned parent being like, look, I don't know about this. I want to hold off. And then you were gaslit by thousands upon thousands of people. And one of the biggest psyops run online, not even necessarily intentionally, but by thousands of people who, for the sake of wanting to seem morally superior, told you needed to do this for the good of other people, ignoring the fact that you have to put yourself and your family first, and that's your decision. That's not a conspiracy theorist.
Well, and what drives me crazy here, too, is that the establishment, and even some people on the quote-unquote conservative right, these people are considered conservative for some reason, they keep saying that it's just, it's all grievance politics, and this conspiratorial thinking is a consequence of online radicalization. No, what draws people to the type of conspiratorial thinking that we're talking about, not with this specific instance, but just generally all these different conspiracies that we talk about, it's because nobody in a position of authority in our government has been honest with us for decades. And so the first step to fixing any of this problem, if you think that conspiratorial thinking is a problem, the first step is to push for accountability and transparency at every turn. But they don't for some reason. And why is that? Well, it's because they're actually just invested in keeping the power structure currently as it is, because they're in the establishment. They benefit from the way that things are. They don't want challenges to authority. And they also, some of them might be well-meaning, and they just think, oh, well, actually, if we are fully and completely honest, if we really just go through all the demons and excise them, then you're going to see a cratering of institutional trust. No, I think a lot of people at this point would say the only way to recover trust in our institutions and to get out of this conspiratorial thinking or whatever is a level set. All right, we need to get back to ground zero. And you know what? Maybe that requires some amnesty for people. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but at this point, we just need the truth.
You're talking about what the Greeks called the apocalypse. It means the removing of the veil, total transparency.
Revelation.
All email is released, a revelation, so to speak. But at some levels of government, you need to lie to people to protect them. You need to protect your military programs. You
need secrecy. Not necessarily
and if someone
lying.
asks if you're doing something, you tell them no. Even if you are, you blatantly lie to save their lives. You have to sometimes. So you have to expect that you will be lied to by your government. But at some point, some things like you don't need to lie about. I think they got to figure out when, because some of this stuff is overboard.
I didn't get radicalized by X. I got radicalized by you.
No, there's also
all these people.
There was a sentiment when we had a more of a monoculture, and there was more actual coalescing around the idea of American patriotism. You could believe maybe in the idea that the American government would lie to you for your own good because you had a general level of trust in what the government was doing. Patriot Act, everything beyond that. Nobody really has that level of trust with the government anymore. And that was also signal boosted by the mainstream media apparatus, which was basically 4 stations, maybe a couple of cable stations. Ted Turner just died recently. Rest in peace. And that structure is gone now, and it's devolved into a lot of conspiratorial thinking that I don't agree with. But what I think in a lot of ways is making people who have realized that they don't have the bandwidth day in and day out to go to work, take care of their family, and investigate whether the government is being honest with them. And I think a lot of people are looking to tune back out, and they're like, look, I didn't believe, it was like I used to believe in everything, then I didn't. Nothing has really changed all that much, and I don't know where to go. I don't have anybody guiding me through this, and they're just looking for somebody to shepherd them forward.
Just real quick, I was radicalized the other day, just completely radicalized. We need a brutal dictator to come in with an iron fist and just smash things with a hammer, take over.
I'll do it.
And I'll tell you what radicalized me. It was that picture of Charlie Kirk as that baseball guy.
Oh, I saw that. What was that all about?
So we are living in Elsa Gate 10.0, whatever you want to call it. We are living in an algorithmic retardation manipulation through our culture. Our brains have turned to jello. And unless someone comes in and shatters the veil, breaking through the noise, we are doomed to be a bunch of zombie retards bashing our faces on the table. I'm gonna stress this again. What's happening on social media with TikTok and Instagram, it's frying the brains. It already fried the brain of Gen Alpha. Their brain is cooked. if I don't even know if it matters at this point, because millennials are the last, like, we had 1 foot in, 1 foot out on social media. Gen Z grew up with social media. Gen Alpha grew up in ElsaGate. You know what ElsaGate is?
No.
It's when the algorithm was promoting videos of people dressed like Elsa, Spider-Man, and the Joker running around a slapstick comedy. It devolved into Peppa Pig eating feces out of toilets and things like that. This was
the algorithm running itself.
So what happened is, there you go. Sorry about that.
Thank goodness it was a glass water bottle.
What
Pool
happened?
water, by the way.
Pool water.
Well, it didn't shatter. What happened was that the algorithm would autoplay for babies. Parents would put a tablet in front of their baby and press play. The YouTube algorithm would just pick whatever got the most clicks. So people in India would make videos that were just attacking babies through the algorithm. Spider-Man, Elsa, and Joker did the best in the algorithm. And then aside from that, it started to turn into feces, drinking urine, just there were like thumbnails of Peppa Pig and like a female pig, and he's peeing in her mouth, things like that. Yep. And it was all over YouTube Kids and YouTube for a long time. They banned those things, but now we are still in it. And the other day, I'm gonna pull it up again for people who are not familiar with the context. I'm gonna pull it up again so y'all can see. The first thing I will tell you is that I see all the time, there are these ads that pop up. It'll be a viral video of a random thing. Body camera footage, black people fighting at a KFC. I'm like, not even joking. Literally, it's a lot of these viral videos. And then at the bottom is a picture of Charlie Kirk throwing a hat. Just there. Just Charlie Kirk throwing a hat. And I'm sitting there being like, why is Charlie Kirk just superimposed over this weird viral clip? Algorithm. And then I got radicalized. I saw this. And that's it.
So
I saw this and I said, it's time for someone to come in with an iron fist and just take over by force. And I'm only half joking, because this is culture these days. Guys, I understand we had problems with controlled media back in the day when we had big networks, but at least there was still a struggle between those who controlled these systems. And the media tried to be middle of the road because there were few channels. Now that we have an infinite number of channels all attacking the algorithm, you get this. Mm-hmm. You get whatever that stupid baseball bet sports gambling character is with Charlie Kirk's face superimposed on it. And there are kids on Instagram and TikTok seeing this every day, they're being turned into retards. Their brains have the capacity for great knowledge, but they're being programmed by this stuff. We need to put an end to it. We need to shut this stuff down.
It's sort of like fishing. Before it would be like ABC, NBC, CBS. They were all fishing, and then they'd be like, hey, look, all the fish we caught. And we're all like, blah, blah, blah. And then now it's everybody, all these people are fishing. And some people are fishing with poison. They're poisoning the water to kill the fish, but they don't realize they can't eat the fish if they poison their minds. You gotta be resilient towards it and not allow yourself to get poisoned by it.
Also, virality in the space in the internet now isn't even the same thing that it was 5 to 10 years ago. We've been covering a lot of stuff on our channel about stealth marketing and these companies that spend tons of money on basically hiring clippers to go and flood the zone, put somebody like Clavicular, who is basically a product of marketing through Kick as a way of putting infinite numbers of clips on social media to make them look more relevant than they are, because they're paying these clippers like $1 for every 1,000 views that they get. And you're basically trying to create viral moments because the desire for virality is now outweighing how many actual honest viral clips are coming from social media. So everything is fake. Nothing is really in any way real online. And there was also talk from this guy who was doing it. He runs this company that does it. And says Eric Adams, I think his Eric Adams, like political advisor, denies this, but said it was a good idea. But basically this guy says they came to him and said, we want you to basically flood the zone with insults, like videos insulting Mamdani. And the guy's like, we were going to do it, but then a guy didn't get back to me. The guy didn't have a problem with doing it. He wasn't ideologically opposed to it. He was saying that he's like, we would have done it, but we just never were able to come to a deal. Politicians are doing this now too. And you're manufacturing a way to boost the, whether it's positive stuff about you or more commonly negative things about somebody you don't like, you have to use people to create virality because it's not happening organically. Nothing's real.
So I'm wondering what you guys think about this, but Gen Alpha cooked. I think we all agree on that. Is it bubbling up the chain to older generations. Because can you do me a favor, Tim? Can you pull up my Twitter account? I want to show you guys this. The Richard Nixon Foundation just did something incredible. First off, they're making all these viral edits of Richard Nixon.
Which one?
Go ahead and scroll down. It is nope, keep going.
And
Okay, right here. So this is the president of the Richard Nixon Foundation. Scroll up a little bit to see. So I trust that the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery will take immediate steps to correct this mistake, lest its many visitors are misled about the 37th president. Look at this letter. So the curators of the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery put on their description of this, I think it's the Norman Rockwell painting of Richard Nixon, that Nixon was impeached. He was never impeached and convicted. He was never impeached and convicted. He left. And so they're asking for a correction here on this. And it's like, even the people who are supposed to be stewards, are their brains just as cooked?
Yes.
Like, these are the experts here, and it's all working its way up the chain.
I will
working down, it's working up.
I will
probably
mention
works in
that
synergy.
there's something really funny. I don't know if there's a phrase for this, but there's a phenomenon in the English language where a phrase gets shortened to and it turns into the inverse meaning. So common phrases you may have heard, like "curiosity killed the cat," and the implication there was that if you are inquisitive, you may come to find trouble. The actual phrase is "curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought him back." Something like that. There's also "jack of all trades," right? Jack of all trades, master of none. Implication that you may be good at a bunch of things, but you're just not good at this one thing. The actual phrase is "jack of all trades, master of none, but every so often better than a master of one." The actual phrase was meant to say, "I'm good a little bit at everything, and sometimes I'm better than you." But we have broken these phrases over we've mimified them into the inverse meaning or into a different meaning.
The guy in charge of marketing said we got to shorten the phrase, like a YouTube title.
There's a whole bunch of these
Semantic
too.
bleaching, I think, is the term.
And this is also the
Semantic
monoculture
bleaching?
point that you were bringing up earlier. Like, oh, there used to be this monoculture. Well, how much of that is just fake too, right?
Oh, yes.
In fact, President Richard Nixon was never impeached. He resigned on August 9th, 1974, before the House of Representatives have voted on any articles of impeachment. I think it's like these. How much of the monoculture is fake too? Because this is like the boomer ethos, right? Like Watergate, 1979 Iranian Revolution, peak oil. Like these are the formative events. Woodstock.
This is why I don't believe in religions, dude. How much? Can you prove any of this?
Blood is thicker than water is used to imply that family is stronger than friendship. That the phrase is actually "blood of the covenant is thicker than water of the womb," meaning the contracts you have are more valuable than just being in someone's family. The inverse meaning: curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. It's supposed to be encouragement. The reward of discovery is worth the risk. But my point is, a good portion of what we think we know is a corruption that, you look at this, history may very well come to a point where they're like, Nixon was impeached and then mercilessly beaten in the street by a horde of rioters. And you're like, purple monkey dishwasher.
Who is he beaten by? And then they show the picture of the baseball bat.
Yeah, we saw such media manipulation in real time during the COVID debacle. We see stuff like this. I mean, and then you go back pre-internet, pre-history, like, I'm so checked out on believing the things that I'm told to believe. Hands down, I brought up religion a minute ago. I'll bring it up again and beat this thing into the ground and build a tent out of it.
There's something that's so good. So the phrase "winning isn't everything," you've maybe heard it, and it's meant to be encouraging. Like if you lose a game, you say, "Well, winning isn't everything." The actual quote is, "Winning isn't everything; it's the only thing."
Oh man.
We just really ruin it. How about this one? This one everybody does know. The early bird gets the worm. The actual full phrase is "the early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese."
Because the first one gets slaughtered by the mousetrap?
Yes. So the implication is...
In case that was unclear, slaughtered.
Right. Yeah. Slaughtered. Well, to be fair, I wouldn't call it slaughtering. The mousetrap comes down on it and smashes into its back, snapping its spine. So, it's a quick death.
Yeah, you can regrow spinal cords by the way
Slaughtered.
now with graphene tethers. It's pretty cool. I digress. Dude, I don't believe. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
believe
here's
it.
another one. Great
Saying-
minds think alike. The actual phrase is great minds think alike, but fools seldom differ. So people use the phrase to imply like we must both be smart when it actually means y'all are dumb.
I think it's the term "I don't believe it" doesn't mean you think it's untrue. It's just saying you're not going to accept that it is true. You cannot believe something but not say it's false. So like religion, I don't believe it. I'm not saying it's not real. I don't know if it's real, but I don't believe it. Same with a lot of this stuff, man. It's okay to not believe something.
Let's talk about this while we're going back in time and reminiscing. Jill Biden says she was frightened by Joe Biden's debate performance, thought he was having a stroke. Me too. Me too.
Why does she need to be saying that? Like, keep it to yourself. That's your husband.
Can you guys believe that's really 2026 already? It's May too. The year's half over. Like we're only a couple days away from June.
I think about
of
how we
2026.
started doing this in 2020, but it's like, bizarre.
Do you guys know the soft white underbelly, the channel?
What is it?
The soft white Hunter Biden did a whole 2-hour thing on it, and I watched the whole thing last night. It was wild.
So he's full redemption arc?
No, not at all.
Ashley, who
He's
just
doubled down
interviewed
on
him? Was
everything.
it Ashley St. Clair interviewed him?
No,
Here's what I think.
Sorry, Ashley, I got you.
We exist
crossed.
as like a vestige of the last strand of American culture that perhaps may be intentionally destroyed. I saw Brucewitz made a post. He was saying like if anybody has information about foreign influence and funding to reach out to us, and I was just thinking about this phenomenon, like Candace Owens flips. And there's a lot of conspiracy theories. One, like we mentioned earlier, that they're creating the new opposition to Trump, which will still be somewhat conservative. So they're eliminating woke. Maybe the whole thing's on purpose. I don't know. But I also kind of feel like Gen Alpha exists in the like hyper clip era. They don't watch long form podcasts with in-depth conversations.
That's why I mentioned clippers earlier. That's how you get to them now. You don't get to them through long form content. You get to them by flooding their timeline.
Right, but this is the same phenomenon as the shortening of phrases. Whereas a 2-hour-long podcast, actually, it's a really great example that the Trump admin got mad at me because of one of the clips where I said, I was like, how dare Trump insult Alex Jones? I'm voting Democrat from now on. And they believed it. They thought it was real. They saw a clip. They didn't watch the show. And they're like, oh, well, I never. And it's just like, okay, whatever. I don't care. If y'all are dumb, y'all are dumb. But this is the point. Young people don't watch the full show. They watch the snippet and complain about the fake version of reality.
Well, half the time when we're covering things, we have to talk about some clipped or quoted version of something a celebrity says, and then we have to explain how first of all, they were being baited by the journalist. It's being taken out of context. It's not actually like that. And most of it's because you're not engaging with the full form of what you're reading or watching.
You know what's crazy is that, like, I made that joke where I said something like, I can say, what was the joke that I said on the show that went viral?
Oh, you said
Trump called me.
Yeah, Trump called me.
Before he called out Tucker
this
Carlson, and then it went viral. And like everybody was sharing it. It was absolutely insane. So knowing that, I can consistently just... If I were to come on the show every night and say something to the audience with the full context being people are so dumb, they will believe anything. Like if I were to say that I can prove definitively the big famous podcasters that everybody's following, and I'm going to avoid naming for legal reasons, I have seen proof they are paid directly by Pakistan. And that's just me making a hypothetical, but what's going to happen? It's going to turn to a clip. Clippers are going to blast it out. The thing is, these clippers don't care what's true or not. They care what the algorithm will hit. A statement like that will then go viral. People who don't like, Candace Tucker will say, here's Tim Pool proving it. And then a bunch of news outlets are going to write it up, and they're going to be like, this is the crazy thing. A bunch of blog and drama blogs wrote Tim Pool announces he's voting Democrat. And then like a day later had to update it to be like, he was joking, though.
Even the thing is, they don't even need to do that. They could have included it in the article at the bottom, like they always do, lie by structure, right? They're like, well, it was clearly said in jest, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. The click has already happened by that point.
So to generate attention, we should just say things that in full context we can't be sued over, but out of context sound crazy.
I don't think it's more than just getting attention, though, because integrity is really important, and there's a diminishing return on telling lies. If you have a lot of healthy integrity with your people, they can handle 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 jokes, but eventually people are just going to start dismissing you. If you
Here's
lie a
something.
lot.
You know what's absolutely not true? Ian Crossland beat a child.
And I'm not saying Tim kicks kids like it's his job. I'm not saying that. Tim just punches he just beats them up.
You could literally come on this show and just be like, you know what never happened ever? Hassan Piker actually was on camera beating his dog. That never happened once.
I never.
And then the Clippers take it, and then Hassan's going to see it, and he's going to be like, how could Tim Pool have said that? And I'll be like, actually, I was making a joke saying you never did, but of course they cut out of context to get views. And, honestly, this is the path towards virality. If we want to be relevant, we can just do it every day because none of these Clippers care whether it's true or
On top
not.
of this is deepfakes, dude, because I talk about integrity, but like pretty soon the machine's going to emulate you saying whatever the machine wants you to say. How do you combat that? Hopefully you have human integrity on top and they know that they know you would never say that.
Well, so the average, that's actually not true anymore. In a lot of ways, people have been kind of hit with so many crazy headlines over and over again. You don't want to feel dumb for being like, I don't think they would say that. So you just kind of believe that somebody is going to say something crazy when in general, your brain should kick and you're like, that seems a little bit ridiculous for me to buy into. But I don't think most people do that because most people are just scrolling by now and they're not actually thinking about it critically.
I mean, eventually it's going to be video and audio of my voice. I don't know how to
You
prepare.
should
Dude,
theoretically
listen,
be like,
listen.
I don't know, but
I was talking to my book Cody Mack the other day about how AI is just taking over and it's frying everyone's brains. And he was just like, for a lot of stuff too, but he was like, AI still can't get skateboarding right. And that's technically true, but it's basically there.
Yeah, I couldn't tell when he showed it to me.
So
It looked real to me.
yeah, he was talking about, there's this dude, it's just, we're cooked. We are cooked. I'm sorry guys, it's Black Pilly, but it is. There's this AI woman account. Half her pictures are just ridiculously what's the impossibly large milkers, right? That's the phrase?
Yeah, that's one way to.
And she skateboards, and he was like, did you see the video of the woman doing the crooked grind nollie heel flip 50-50? And anybody knows skateboarding, a crook on a ledge, nollie heel flip from the ledge onto a 50-50 onto a rail, knows very few people in the world could do something like that. That's like beyond Olympic level. You will not see a trick that complicated in the Olympics. That's a trick that maybe only a handful of the top skaters in the world can do after a session where they try to
20, 30, 40 tries.
if that. And it's this big-tittied, big butt woman doing an impossible trick with perfect balance that is obviously fake. But to a regular person who doesn't know skateboarding, they can't tell the difference. I'm like, dude, it is not years away. Ian, we are already at the point where AI can fully make an episode of Timcast IRL.
I believe it, man.
You should do it one time. See if it works.
Just make a 2-hour episode of IRL that's just
Yeah.
totally made by AI.
Might as well give it a
the
shot.
problem
Like,
is,
throw it out there, obviously, but
but you'd have
see if
to
it
you'd have to screen it first because, like, for all you know, abruptly in the middle of the show, like Ian takes his shirt off for some reason, and you're
All
like,
right.
Yeah,
This
you'd
is
have
not
to-
AI.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just kidding. I'm almost there, Brett. What were you going to say?
I said like that's you could premiere it for like a Friday episode. See
we
if-
should just like every episode or every segment randomly insert a phrase that will go viral out of context.
Oh, yeah, we could do the show, and we'll say, now, for all you listening, what's coming up is AI. This is fake. This is AI. Then cut it to the AI, and people out of context, they'll think it's real, and then they'll come back to the show. Okay, what you just saw was fake. Back to the show. But someone will
Well, we don't even
take
have to
that
do
AI
that.
clip.
We don't even have to do that. I could literally just do what I already said and be like, here's something that never happened. Right. Joe Biden actually called me. It was the craziest thing during the election and asked me to endorse him personally. And I was actually kind of shocked by this. And when I turned him down, he threatened me and said, if you do not come out in support of me, I will accuse you of working for the Russians. And I said, oh, please, dude. Is this a joke? I thought it was a fake phone call. So I hung up. Next thing I know, they accused me of working for the Russians. And that literally never happened.
40 years from now, you know the show Mad Men? I've never actually watched it. I just know it culturally, but they're these marketing guys. Like 40 years from now, the Mad Men show of our time will be guys sitting around a room being like, what dance?
I don't think so.
What TikTok dance should we do?
I hear that, but the reason why it's not going to happen is because in 40 years, people are going to be gaunt, sickly, and wearing VR goggles. They're not going to watch shows. I don't think people are.
Tim's down so bad right now.
Listen, you're talking about Gen Alpha being cooked, right? But Gen Alpha is only 40 million. It's half the size of Gen Z. Half. People didn't have kids. Gen Alpha isn't just cooked because they're culturally cooked from social media. They're cooked because our pair bonding mechanism, our family building, community building, it's gone. That's why we were like, we got to do the Discord. We got to like bring people together and so they can have conversations to kind of keep some element of this alive. And the technocrats and the transhumanists are going to be like, so what? Already, you know what the creepiest thing is? AI girlfriends. Tons of Gen Alpha just have AI girlfriends because it's easy and it's emotionally satisfying enough. It may not be as satisfying as having an actual girlfriend, but at least they feel a little bit.
Well, and they say they don't have to take any risks because they're not going to say no in any meaningful way. They understand there's no actual
there's no fear of rejection.
Exactly. That's a big part of it.
Well, a big part of being in a relationship is learning how to grow for someone and with someone else.
Here we go. Let me pull this story up for you guys. From the Daily Mail. Canadian doctor met man, 45, suffering from IBD and depression outside Tim Hortons and took him to be euthanized. Dr. James McLean has been placed under mandatory clinical supervision for 6 months following allegations that he improperly administered MAID to 2 patients. In other words, he killed people. He killed them. Dylan, 45, was deemed eligible for MAID by McLean and a nurse practitioner due to his condition, which led to persistent complications with the colostomy bag, according to medical records. McLean conducted the MAID assessment outside of Tim Hortons in June of 2023. This was 3 years ago. When we were warning this stuff would happen, it was actually already happening. So we look at the younger generation. They're not having families. They're not finding jobs. They're getting, look at this, AI girlfriends, Telegraph, the terrifying rise of schoolboys making AI girlfriends. And the older generation, these are people who are middle-aged, are being murdered by doctors. So I'm sorry if I'm blackpilled a little bit, but I want to stress this. 3 years ago, when we were talking about the rise of MAID, saying this may start happening, it was actually already happening. And imagine how bad it must be right now, but these people are doing it in secret and they're getting away with it.
Well, it's a testament to the fact that I think the elites are realizing, like, these programs are born out of, how do I put this bluntly? This is born out of resource scarcity, that they do not want to change the way that they have governed or that they have run society, right? Like, the reason that this exists in Canada and in other countries is because they just think it's cheaper to kill people. And that's the most disgusting part. And you see this over and over and over again with totalitarian communist states like Cuba, for example. Oh, the left will talk all the time about how Cuba's health system is so much better compared to the United States, and it's free. Well, guess what? You create artificial abundance by killing a whole bunch of freaking people or running them off of your island.
Even decades before, like where I'm from in Minnesota, I remember reading articles about wet houses, which were, had government funding tied to them, where basically you were allowed to just go and die of they're not going to buy you the alcohol, but you're allowed to live there and basically just drink till you die. And that was always, to me, I was like, I can't believe the government would be in bed with any business like that or how anything like that, because it's one thing when you talk about MAID and people can have their whole discussion about the concept of suicide and what you think about that, but in no way should it ever be tied to the government in any way, shape, or form.
Well, if you're a utilitarian government and agent and say there's a horrible famine, the water supply is cut out, people are starving to death in cities across America, you have to make a choice. How dangerous are each of these cities to the order? What are they costing us per day? Who can we let die first? Who can we speed up the death of to cheapen the system so that other people can survive? Because we can't all survive, and if we try, we're all going to die. There are situations where it is cheaper to let people. I mean, they used to send them to the meat machine, the grind machine. They used to just leave them on the side of the road because they couldn't walk. Like, at some point, you have to take care of yourself. And if you can't rely on a government to save you, or
therefore you rely on the government to kill you?
Well, it's not up to the government, but I mean, if it's easier than trying to do it in your house and going half retarded as a result of failing,
right?
I don't know.
You have to be independent to avoid the impulse for the government to go utilitarian on you.
That is correct.
That's the big thing. Yeah.
So I'm not black-pilled and I'm not cooked. We're not cooked, but I understand people are stunted. I think that
This is how humans go extinct, man.
It's definitely one way, but humans will continue. I mean, we got bombarded by meteors and came out of it with like 6,000 humans left on Earth, or some crazy 18,000 humans left on Earth, and they repopulated the planet from that. We're like an infestation. We take this planet and made it our own, and it's never going to go away. As far as I can tell, we've got it forever now.
We need to repopulate. We need to get that birth rate up. But you mentioned this at the top of the show, that you had a marriage from the Discord.
We've had a handful of people got married through our Discord.
Were you invited to the wedding?
I think maybe one of them.
That's like amazing that people got married from.
Well, people get married. It's what they do. It's actually not surprising. It's kind of. I would say it's actually scary.
From your Discord? That's pretty.
No, but
they found like-minded people that shared their values. So
I'm just saying, like,
sense to find
marriage is particularly mundane, but it's supposed to be, but it's not anymore. Go to the 50s. It was like you were 18 and you were like, who am I going to marry? That was it. It's funny because back then dating meant like a woman would be dating 10 guys. What did that mean? It would mean that she would go out to get a soda pop, a root beer float, and they would hang out for a couple hours and then go home, and they were dating. But then she'd also the next day go with another guy, but then she'd start going steady. Going steady meant she's basically become exclusive with one guy, and now they've got something going on, and within a year they were married and they were like 20 years old.
He wasn't asking, what's your body count?
Right. By 20, on average, between 20 and 22, people were married and having their first kids. And they had jobs. They were already working and out of high school, weren't going to college, and they were thinking about, like, we're going to go buy our first house. That was mundane.
It was mundane. It was mundane. It's not anymore.
Yeah, now it's rare.
And the fact that that's happening on your channels is pretty freaking cool. Don't underplay it. Be like, yeah, it's just mundane. Like the fact that
it is cool, but again, we have to understand what perspective means. We should not be living in a society where we're like, wow, a couple people got married. That's horrifying. That is nightmare dystopia stuff. So we need to be like, guys, get married. You know what I mean? But I got to tell you, because I've talked to some of my guy friends, and they're just outright saying, like, it is impossible these days. And one of the reasons is the socialization of the modern woman. I brought this up years ago on this show, and the left went nuts. And the funny thing about the left is, like, they like to attack masculinity and then attack you if you're not masculine. Mm-hmm. So it's like, bro, your boos mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer. Modern women try to get men by bragging about how manly they are. And it's not an exaggeration. They'll say, like, I have this great job. I get paid a lot of money. And guys go, I don't care. There was a story that I covered. Actually, let me pull this up so I can find it. Women struggle to date guys with same income. This was years ago. I covered this, and liberals lost their minds. 2019. Let's roll, baby. Let's go. Let's do it. Women are struggling to find men who make as much money as they do. Well, let me see. Let me find one example.
Because you took their jobs.
No. Here we go. Gina Thibodeau. So, single New Yorker. Gina. Hey, look, it's been 7 years, man. I hope she's found family.
Good job, Gina.
They say has some theories. I find generally that dudes these days just do less across the board. Their parents have coddled them and taken care of them, and they just don't go out there and make more money. Let me tell you what's wrong with this argument and what's really happening. Gina, you are, how old is he? 38 years old? Do you think a 38-year-old guy who's making $80,000 a year is dating you? The guys who are dating you are the guys who do nothing. These are the guys who can't get anybody else. A 38-year-old guy making between 50 and 100 per year might not be in the ideal. I mean, 38, you should have a family already. You should have kids already. Look, I know I was late to the party, but you get a guy in his 30s, he's going to be dating a woman who's 28. He's going to be dating a much younger woman, and the younger guy who's 28 can't compete because the older guys have the money and the car and the apartment, and the younger guys don't have that yet. She thinks guys aren't doing anything, and while it's true there are a lot of guys that aren't, the only guys willing to date a 38-year-old spinster are the low-value males, creating the perception among these women that guys are just not good. Now, the reality is there's a bunch of dudes who are like, let's say they're 35, have a good salary, and they're just banging all the feminists and then doing whatever they want. They don't got to settle down because those are the rules of the game. This is what these women just don't. Feminists got super mad when I pointed this out because they don't want to realize that they live in this world where they are not valuable partners. No guy, I'm sorry, some guys Sorry, I know the women are not going to understand averages. Most guys, when the women go to them and say, I'm a nurse practitioner, I make $50,000 a year, the guy's going to be like, I don't need a business partner.
He's going to be like, cool, when are you off work? Let's go.
No. He's going to say, listen, if we're going to have a relationship, I need a woman. I already have a job. I already make money. I can't have kids. I don't need a woman who's going to be a man. I need a woman who's going to be a mom. And the women are like, oh, you're just scared of strong women. Well, there you go. So I feel bad for these young guys, the socialization of the modern woman, telling them to be like men and try to attract men. But then guys don't find compatibility with this, and they're not having families and having kids. So Gen Alpha is half the size of Gen Z. Young guys. This story from the Telegraph says that something like 43% of men under the age of, what did they say, like under the age of 16, regularly chat with bots.
That was a UK study, right? I think we covered that on the channel.
Yep. 8 in 10 boys have a conversation with a chat bot, with 43% saying they talk to bots so they can ask questions without feeling embarrassed. More than a quarter say they like the attention and connection over real-life equivalents. So, guys, Gen Alpha is going to be a bunch of women are going to be locked in a room with a vibrator, and dudes are going to be locked in a room with their waifu pillow or whatever.
In short, this is a great rant by Tim, but in short, Discord, I'm looking at you right now. He's not impressed with your handful of marriages. More of you need to get married in the Discord.
Here's one of the interesting things.
We got to talk about sex.
Women don't listen to politics. The only politics that women listen to, and this is a fact, is Candace Owens.
Well, that's a generalization, but I mean, there's women listening.
Yes,
right now.
That is literally a generalization.
90% men or something in the audience right now.
See,
that's a lot of women.
Ian, I just don't respect it when you do this.
Well, I don't respect hyperbole.
What?
You said no women watch politics.
Uh-huh.
And there's probably like 1,000 women listening right now.
And if their IQ is sub 70, well, that's too bad. There's a lot of things they can't understand. And I wouldn't be able to express myself monosyllabically enough to convey these complex ideas anyway. So when I say something like, women don't listen to politics, you don't need to correct it and go, there are some that do. We get that.
Well, you want more
It's a
women to
generalization
listen to politics,
intentionally.
right? You want more women listening?
I don't know if I want more women to listen to politics. It is just a thing. The point I am bringing up is what I said was the only politics women listen to is Candace Owens, right?
Okay.
So the top podcasts among women are true crime and sex. And among women, one of the top podcasts is Candace Owens, and it's tangentially political. She doesn't care about electoral politics. She says it herself. But she has a massively female audience. So she gets women in that space. Again, conspiratorial, it's all one big plan to create a controlled opposition, a new left-right that is centered around what MAGA is.
Probably, I think we should talk about sex more because we talk about this being a family-friendly show. You want to make families, you talk about sex. You get women to come here and listen.
Yeah, you can talk about dating, not sex.
Hot. Well, whatever. You want women to be enjoyed. You want this to be like a family friend. You want families. I understand if little kids, but we talk about guts getting ripped open. Little kids shouldn't be hearing that stuff either. Like, we need sex. We need to do.
I was talking to one of my boys today, and he was saying like his girlfriend just goes on and on about how she wants buccal fat removal and lip fillers and breast implants. And he's just going like, oh my God, man. Like, no guy likes this. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, Ian, there are some guys that like plastic drag queen looking women. Yeah. But we were talking about this the other day. I can't remember who brought it up. I don't know if you brought it up. These young girls grew up watching James Charles or whatever. They grew up watching drag queens.
Oh, yeah, Tate said that.
Yeah, Tay was saying. So now these women want to look like drag queens, and guys do not want to date guys. Oh. This is the crazy thing. Women are getting plastic surgery to look like drag queens while bragging about having masculine roles in society. Like, they are just telling women to act more like men, and guys are not attracted by it.
Yeah, we got to what do we need? Girls that are just chill.
The funny thing is like if you look at with what I cover, like with movies at the box office, the women don't come out to see women do movies where they're playing manly roles like superheroes. The guys go out and watch those, and then the audience splits off because not enough go watch the female-led ones outside of a few examples to really move it at the box office. But they will go see Barbie. They will go see It Ends With Us, which is based on a Colleen Hoover book. They will go watch things that women actually like talking about. Devil Wears Prada 2 is still doing really well at the box office because it's generically feminist and fits into that girl boss side of what they actually like, which is, there's the ones like Barbie is a generically feminist movie and Devil Wears Prada 2 is about girl boss feminism. They love that.
I see Someone chatted, Tim's out of touch. Go on a dating app. Women are all communists. No, sir, you misunderstand. Women do not listen to politics.
I think that's
they
because
don't pull up news shows, let me finish, and listen to political talk, and that's why they're communists. Because if they actually heard the truth about what was going on, they would be moderate to right-leaning.
And women
right?
generally are communistic because they're about protecting the family at any cost, will give anything for everyone in that environment, and men go out and fight wars.
You're inverting
I think
it.
that's where their general
Women,
love of the communistic ethos comes from.
So women, they just do what they're told to do. And I'm speaking generally.
I understand.
They adhere to social orthodoxy heavily because they just want, and low T guys do this too. High testosterone guys fight each other. Low testosterone guys say, just tell me what to do and leave me alone.
Women generally don't want to fight, and men go out and they break bears and they cut them open to bring the
Remember
food
the
back.
Try guys on BuzzFeed when they all had like T levels, like 80-year-old men?
And like the one that had reasonable testosterone was gay.
Well, I think there is like a thing with a lot of guys are just super weak right now too. Like it's not all the women, and there's like this. I'm not sure how to explain it, but like a tendency to just kind of like not know how to understand women.
Well, I think one of the issues is there was a post on Reddit on like I guess the front page doesn't exist on Reddit anymore, but it was some AI animation where a guy walks up to a woman, and he's like, hey, just wanted to introduce myself. He's like, my name's John. I you looked interesting. I was wondering if you'd ever want to go out, hang out sometime. And she goes, no. And he goes, well, okay, it was nice talking. And he turns around and walks away. And then she goes, wait, what? You're just going to leave? And he goes, you said no. I got Nintendo. I'm going to go play video games. And he just walked off.
Who means no?
I'll give you a little
And
advice.
then all the
Ladies,
comments were talking,
dance.
like comments from women were saying things like, men don't try anymore. Men won't pursue us. And it's like, bro, y'all feminists put out a video called 10 Hours of Walking Through New York as a Woman, where you claimed that a guy saying morning was sexual harassment. So now you're surprised young guys are like, leave me the F alone, dude.
I think dancing is one of the most epic ways to find a woman. You go out where women are dancing, men are dancing.
A mating ritual.
Now, I will
It is.
say
It's
there's
like
a
birds do it.
There was a really funny post. I think it was from Andrew Tate, where it's a video of like a breeding bull being released to a bunch of cows.
Seen it.
And then the bull like walks out and all the girls are like swarming around and sniffing him. And then Andrew Tate commented, been there.
Did you see the one of the bull being released and he's like walks out lazily, doesn't know what's going on, and he looks around and then he sees the females and he like jumps for joy and then he starts running and playing.
Let's go.
Everyone's clapping for him.
Let's go, ladies.
There was one post the other day where a guy said, like, if a woman brings up politics on a first date, he just doesn't even bother, not because he doesn't want to talk about politics, but because she doesn't. She just wants to hear that she's right. And they don't actually want to have
Also,
a back
arguing
and forth.
lowers attraction too.
It's not just that. I would say that if never swipe on a woman who's got politics in her profile, and if you want to hear, there's one thing that'll guarantee you a perfect marriage. You're on a date and you say something like, "Oh, like let me get your Instagram." I don't have Instagram. Marry me. TikTok? I don't use TikTok.
When I met my wife, I said one of the biggest green flags was not having the newest and biggest iPhone.
Yeah, the literal green flag is when she tells you she doesn't really care for social media. I think this is bad.
There was an
and
article.
She wished people would just go hiking more.
Amen.
There was an
Green
article
flag
of the inverse recently where it was a woman writing an article that says a green flag is having a Luddite husband who doesn't spend much time online.
Well, that's
Wrong.
arguable.
I love that.
But you know what that's about? It's because then when she says to her husband, you know that Trump's a fascist, they'll go, oh,
Wow.
yeah, I didn't know.
Guess so.
Sure.
I can't really speak for women, but I would think you'd want a guy that's somewhat connected to what's going on in the world so that you're not going to get jumped by the outside
Well, I mean,
world, but
The article
not
wasn't
obsessed
saying
with it.
like that he didn't like read the news. They're saying like he's not on social media constantly. He's not posting selfies and stuff like that. Because
Oh.
it is inherently a bit, less masculine.
Yeah, like to what
little
end,
gay.
If it's for business, if it's for work, like I don't really post a lot on Instagram, but I did over the weekend. 'cause
Some
we were at the
once in a while, but
Lance
it's the
games.
difference of like how often do they do it, and it just ends up being a weird worship of self.
My wife's family, this was a green flag for me when we were dating, but my wife's family only had a TV in their basement. Which was awesome, which was like, hey, and this thing's on like they didn't have cable growing up. They had the 4 public channels and they had a a DVD player. So this thing only plays movies, and it only plays them when the whole family's down there.
God, dude,
We need to
And
get
they still, to
computer
this
rooms
day,
for
they
that.
do not have a TV on the first floor of their house, which is awesome. Every single time I go over there, I spend way more time talking to family members. I spend way more time in the quiet moments reading. Even if it's on my phone, I'm reading.
It's
something.
noise
Way better.
pollution, bro. I can't stand televisions in the house that are on. Oh God, it's so annoing.
Unless
Tucker was like, why would I invite these people into my own home so that they can yell at me?
if Gutfeld is on, then I just go to sleep peacefully. Just hearing Greg's voice, it's like a lullaby.
just
Sweet
earbuds
lullaby.
in all night. I've been seeing videos of like this was what life was like before phones in like 1998. People just walking around looking at each other, constantly
Dude.
looking at each
You know,
other.
what's funny is like I know it's nostalgia. There's this Instagram account that makes these nostalgia videos, and it was like waking up in the year is 1999, and he's like, "Ooh, what's happening?" And he's like looking at his old Windows 95 computer or whatever, and I'm like, I think back to those times. There was a nostalgia post on Reddit where it showed in 1999 a bunch of like 12-year-old boys playing N64, and it was like, you wish you could go back, and I'm like, yeah, I would love to be in like just to be perpetually in the year 1999. The thing is, I know it's nostalgia, and I know we just miss the things we had as kids, but I genuinely believe it is true right now that the younger generations are existing in a nightmare hell scenario. They are not feeling the joy and wonder that we did when we were kids, and they're like, I was reading an article that talked about how Gen Z and Gen Alpha have nostalgia for an era they didn't live in. Yep. Because it was talking about how like 20-year-olds look at these photos of the 90s of what it was like growing up and they wish they had that. So I'm like, I genuinely do think we would be better off civilizationally if it was more like the 90s, and that the young people, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, growing up in the AI social media age, again, they're not experiencing the fun, the joy, excitement, the passion. They are just living in a perpetual torturous
What
life.
style is back right now? 90s style. Like my little sister who's just turned 16, like she's going around and like buying all sorts of 90s style clothing, and it's just cracking me up seeing this. Like, you have no context for what this actually meant at the time, but you're longing for something that's more analog. And I think also with the social media stuff, it pushes kids to grow up way too fast. The exposure to porn, the exposure to drugs, the exposure to all of those things. And every single thing that we might suggest that kids stay away from until they're at least adults, right? All these things. It always coincides with, if they're exposed to them, higher rates of anxiety, higher rates of depression, higher rates of all of these different types of mental illnesses that ultimately make community impossible.
I have an idea. People believe that the Amish like live in wooden sheds and don't have electricity, but it's not true or anything like that. Let's create like the semi-Luddite movement where we all come together as a community and we just convince our kids it's the 90s. So we're like, look at this new game console that just came out. We got like a refurbished N64, and they'll be like, the new Mario, wow.
Well, Luddish.
Wasn't that an M. Night Shyamalan movie?
Oh, The Forest.
Kind of.
The
Village.
Village.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's not just nostalgia.
But I'm saying like the joy and wonder of Super Nintendo coming out. I remember my dad went to Blockbuster Video and rented a Super Nintendo so that we could play it, because like we couldn't afford to get one. Yeah. And then I remember I got good grades, so I got Mega Man X. And then, just playing it. We had it in the basement. That's where our TV with the SNES was. It was in like behind the laundry room in just like the undeveloped part of the basement.
People got mad because I was like, you don't actually miss Blockbuster because you didn't have to pay the late fees, and you don't remember that the videos were always sold out.
I remember that I had, was it Dead or Alive? What was that? Was it fighting game that came out for the PlayStation where the chicks had you could customize the boob jiggle?
Oh no!
Yeah.
Jiggle physics.
And so I rented that game, and it fell down the side of my bed, and I forgot about it. Then one day I went to rent a game, and they were like, you can't rent anything because you're past due and you owe like $20. And I was like, what's past due? And they were like, I think it was called Dead or Alive. And then I was like, huh? And then I went in my room and started just digging around. It was a mess. And I found the Blockbuster box smashed against the wall.
$20 is pretty good, though. Like, I'm surprised it wasn't way more.
The 90s.
There was a cap to the it was like a few days.
Yeah.
But it was the cap to like the price of the game or whatever. and then you'd drop it.
Own the game after that. You have to just buy. I thought the 90s was like leaving orbit. It was the exciting time to be young because it was like we were on the rocket going out, and now we're in space. And it's like, yo, everywhere I look is blackness.
That's true.
That's this weird void.
Yeah, man.
But
and it gets worse every day.
That's exactly it.
We're going somewhere.
And no, the universe is expanding.
It seems like
and so we're watching the planets move further and further away from us.
It's frustrating, and it's like almost it feels it can feel lonely and like we've lost, but we're going somewhere. That's you got to remember.
The end of the 90s, if you go watch advertising at that time, there was a lot of tech futurism and a lot of hopefulness around the idea of technology and how it was going to make the world a better place. And you can't recapture that side of
I'm telling you, I gotta find a manager for my hotel chain idea that I talked to you guys about, right?
Yeah.
It's you do it as an Airbnb, and maybe what we do is like we buy 4 houses. One house, everything inside of it is the 90s. One's the 80s, one's the 70s, one's the 60s, and then you can just like rent it out. When you're in there, the TV, we'll use like a Raspberry Pi to pre-program television from the 90s, and you'll have like the VHF and the UHF dials. And you'll actually, it'll play in real time like 3 days worth of TV.
You just discovered.
You can watch that on
you just
YouTube. They
discovered
have those.
decades from first principles. Like, do you know what this is? This club in Washington. It's like this.
Oh, is it?
It's a rundown club. Every single floor is a different decade.
Oh,
so
check it out.
Have you seen?
You go to the 70s, then 80s.
But I'm saying like you get a house, and then like
you do
on the
it as a
fridge,
community.
on the fridge there is like a Pizza Hut thing, and when you call, the guy shows up with a 90s style Pizza Hut box and soda.
I guarantee
charge you 90s
people would
prices.
Oh, it'd be booked out. It'd be booked out
100%.
permanently. I got the idea because Blockbuster did a 90s night. The last Blockbuster a few years ago has a 90s living room, and they did like a 3-day you could reserve.
Airbnb.
Well, I don't think was it an Airbnb?
They turned it into an Airbnb.
But it was like for 3 days only, and then everybody just like it sold out instantly, and they wanted to have a sleepover in the 90s living room. And I was like, we talked about doing it, and I was talking with some people about running it, and they said the biggest concern, they don't know how to get past the problem of the high frequency of suicides you would get.
Oh, people wanting to go there to
Kill themselves.
away.
Oh,
Well, because what's going to happen is they were like, listen, there's going to be like a 36-year-old guy who was like wife left him and took the kids, and he's going to go back to like the 1999 room playing Super Mario 64 by himself, drinking, and then he's going to drink himself to death.
Yeah, we didn't do it alone. It was about community. That was what made.
But like the people who are going to do it are going to be like, my friends are all gone, they've moved on.
You want to not get lost in nostalgia for sure. I used to
The
get
Halo room, where it's
nostalgia
like
pod.
you go in and there's like 4 TVs around each
Phil's-
other, and there's
Phil is
like
there.
Mountain
There's a
Dew,
similar
pizza,
feeling
and you
about-
play Halo.
Blankets
about like
separated,
the
split
early
screen.
YouTube days, 2006 and 7, where we were starting like the community of YouTube.
I was going to say, like, let's not freeze it in 99. I say 2007. We don't have Obamacare yet. Early YouTube. That's good for
after
me.
Turn the
2006
TV on, they're protesting.
Six
we
and seven.
got to get at least some of the Rumble rants and
Yeah,
super
let me.
chats.
I got.
I have,
lost.
bro, we have 4 minutes. Save it for the uncensored.
Okay, I'll
portion
tell you
of
on the
show.
uncensored show.
Smash the like button, share the show. Let's grab some of what you guys got to say. Omni Stone Herald says on Sunday night, our 5th child was born. We were only in the labor department for 5 minutes. My wife pushes like a cannon.
That is incredible, dude. Congratulations.
Well, you know,
lady.
look, on your 5th kid, she's a pro.
Child's gonna be relaxed.
Jacob Bali says, breaking Spanish military and investigative police have burst into the Spanish Workers' Party headquarters in Madrid. They are the current ruling party. Their people were trying to push them out. I heard, man. That's crazy. Patriot Paladin says the Bergdorf Goodman is a luxury department store, which means there's a concierge sales associate lurking and following at all times. There's almost 0% chance Trump was alone. Agreed. It makes literally no sense. Trump owned the building next door. Just not real.
He might have known the guy, known the owner if he owns the building next door.
really
Oh, yeah.
digging the
Yeah.
hole.
Just the reality of Trump going in and being like, I need you to make sure there's no one in the 6th floor, uncharacteristically. Then the locked waiting room door, keep it open. Then watch guard because I'm going to trick this woman I'd never met before
saying,
into going in there so I can rape her.
I don't believe her, but that doesn't mean that she's lying, and she needs to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she's telling the truth. I don't believe her.
time you
No,
say
hold
this,
on,
though,
hold
you're
on.
like,
I
well,
think,
what if
you know what I
he was the
think? I think we
guy?
need to entertain what Ian's saying. Perhaps she not only did Trump have the manager clear out the floor, unlock the door in advance, back away so that Trump could go in, but while he was, E. Jean Carroll activated a time portal, which she reached through and grabbed a dress from the future to wear while Trump did it.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't think the dress thing. I think she was wrong about the dress thing for
Wrong?
sure. Apparently,
She offered it up as evidence
Yes.
and asked them to DNA test it. Sounds like she. She's lying.
Did it get Trump's DNA?
I mean,
on it?
Trump is a time traveler, so
Indeed. Well, actually, that's what someone says. Steel Shattered Hand says, Tim, Trump gave the dress of the future to the woman that named one of her pets vagina because Trump is a time traveler.
see, there you
Oh,
have
that
it.
lady.
I was right.
All right. LS58 says, not to mention the vast majority of videos of animal abuse on farms, it's an immigrant farm worker.
Hey, not always.
Bro, I went to one of my favorite stories ever is I went to a dairy farm. I hear all these stories from vegans about how the milk we drink, it's got pus and blood, and
they
the
call it
cows are
somatic cell
sickly.
count.
Not true. It's all fake.
Well, there's some
So-
somatic cells in cow
Yep.
milk.
Well, I went to a dairy farm where they produce a good portion of it, even not the majority in California. Not this one farm, but in this whole area. And we drove down and looked at all these farms. And I go to this house, and we were knocking on doors. This is what journalism is. Like when Candace Owens says Nick Shirley couldn't do it, she's lying. Literally walked to a random house, knocked on the door. A guy answered and said, howdy. Producer was like, hi, sorry to bother you. We're reporters covering the drought, and we were looking to talk to some farmers about how it's affecting their cattle. And he went, yeah, for sure. He gave an interview talking about how they got to drill for groundwater because the animals have to drink and the crops they have to water. And it's been really, really bad for the area. Afterwards, I was just like, I noticed that there's no fence. You know, the cows were all eating. And he was like, oh, yeah, what do you mean? And I said, well, like your cows, they're not like fenced in. And he goes, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I'm wondering, like, what if the cows leave? And he goes, where would they go? And then I was like, well, I don't know. They just wander off or something. And he was like, well, there's food here. And I was like, it just never occurred to me. I don't know. In his mind, he's like, he's a cattle farmer his whole life. He's like, cows don't leave. There's a saying, till the cows come home. It's like, he's like, they might like wander off a little bit to go graze and then they just come back and then they eat some grain we talked to him about like cows getting milked and he's like, oh, they do it themselves. When the cows need to get milked, they walk into a stall and it automatically milks them. And he goes, the cows want to be milked because it hurts. And I was like, And then I'm sitting there being like, I heard that they force the cows in, the machine injures the udders and there's blood and they're sick and infected. Just not true. We saw a whole bunch of these farms, and when you get
It's like the lower part of the Central Valley in California.
Yeah. They were all happy cows that the cows could just leave if they wanted to, and they're not meat cows.
You got to be careful about the whole Potemkin. The Chinese showed us around, so there's no bad things
Ian,
here. We didn't see any, so it doesn't exist. Like the
we
nasty
drove
farms probably wouldn't go for an
into
interview.
Larry County onto people's properties and knocked on their doors abruptly without being invited.
Have you seen though, like video from inside, like undercover video of like animals with like pus in their eyes getting abused by workers and stuff? Like
you are
dirty,
saying
packed together.
that the propaganda vegan videos, you know, PETA got like sued several times for stealing people's animals and killing them, right?
I would believe it. I'm not sure.
There was one big story. They broke into someone's property, grabbed the dog, and ran off and killed
Yeah,
it.
they're radical. That's a radical group.
Yeah, the videos you're talking about are propaganda.
Maybe. I mean, I've just seen stuff where it's like, okay, it
okay,
wouldn't surprise me to
don't worry,
pack a
it's
bunch
fake.
of animals together and make them.
Don't worry, it's
breed.
fake.
What?
Don't worry, that's fake. Don't tell me when I actually investigated this and found it to not be true that I'm wrong.
Yeah, but
because
don't
of
say
Potemkin
I
Village.
investigated 8 things, therefore none of it exists because I talked.
No,
to
I
8
outright
farmers.
said sometimes bad people do bad things. But when we went to California farms all throughout Southern California to Central California, we went to fruit farms, we went to animal farms, we went to the Bay Area because there was big concern about so they've got the Delta smelt. They want to stop. They don't want to divert the Delta water to the south. One of the biggest issues that doesn't get brought up when Trump talks about the Delta smelt is that if you stop the flow of the fresh water into the Bay Area into the Delta, what happens is the water level will start to drop and seawater will flood into the bay, turning deep inland it's fresh water and they grow a lot of fruits and vegetables. If it becomes brackish, all those farms die. We explored and investigated all of this. My point is, Ian, you watch some random videos on the internet that are hyperbolic, propagandistic, not real. And then you told me when I actually did the investigation, it may be a Potemkin village.
Well, I mean, maybe you saw a portion of all the farms on Earth, and you don't make a blanket decision of all farms everywhere because you interviewed.
No, I didn't. I said when I
what would be the
investigated, I
general
found that it was
rule?
generally not true.
What would be the general rule? That's what you're getting at here, right?
My
The general rule
point is
it's not animal abuse.
activists find extremist videos of people committing crimes and then tell you everyone's doing it. And they tell you there's an industrial agricultural industry. And then when I actually investigated, made phone calls to people in Texas and talked to them, and they're like, oh, that's just not real. Cattle walk wherever they want. If you look at the property nearby, the cows freely roam 200 acres where they walk down to the stream and drink water with their babies. We do kill them eventually, but they live however they want. The farmers don't beat them and make them live in mud, and they're not pussed out.
Pigs, it's pigs I've seen.
There are bad people doing bad things. Anyway, we're going to go to the uncensored portion of the show. Smash the like button, share the show, go to rumble.com/Timcast IRL, where we will talk more about how leftists are liars and are trying to get you to eat bugs through manipulation. And when that don't work, they tell you they're going to genetically engineer, they're going to biologically engineer ticks that can bite you to make you allergic to meat, because that's a real video. So let's talk about how they lie. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Good sir, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, Bradley Devlin on X, at Bradley Devlin. Check out the Signal Sit Down. Check out the Daily Signal. We got a lot of great stuff coming. We just sent a reporter to Skid Row. So see what we found and what they think about Spencer Pratt, Karen Bass, and the entire LA mayor's race coming soon.
All right. If you guys want to follow me, I am on Instagram and X at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. Go follow Pop Culture Crisis on YouTube and on Rumble. We are live 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, noon Pacific, Monday through Friday. If you want to listen, we're on all the audio platforms as well. Thanks for watching, guys.
I'm Ian Carlson. Go check out my Instagram. We had an epic weekend in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Enhanced Games. Documented it. Tim and I and a crew went out there. I have some video on Instagram, but I really want to point you to the Timcast Culture War YouTube channel. Go there, check out the most recent uploaded video with a lot of great interviews behind the scenes. I think Tim, you may have interviewed an athlete, I'm not sure, but I talked to the CFO. It was great times. Check it out. Catch you later. Carter Banks.
Yeah, I started watching that on the way here. I have not yet finished it, but I'm very excited to. If you want to follow me, I'm at Carter Banks everywhere, at Carter Banks Official everywhere else. Follow our record label at Trash House Records on YouTube, and yeah, let's get into the after show.
We'll see you all at rumble.com/Timcast IRL in about 30 seconds. Thanks for hanging out.